All right, hey guys, what is up? We're live. This is the movie discussion pocket dimension, where time does not exist, and the only thing that matters is film. I'm Cole, and there is Jay. I'm jealous of his hair right now because I had a haircut not too long ago, but I didn't get it cut as short as probably I should have.
Yeah,
So I know today was a tremendously hot day here when I was out. All I was thinking was like I need to go back and get it done again and get it more short for the summer.
yeah, it's growing out a lot.
Yeah, it's
It's
already
growing out a
feeling
lot
pretty
since your
heavy.
haircut.
Yeah, I knew when I got it cut that it was longer than I usually leave it. I do, but I don't know. Just wanted to get out of there, I guess. So maybe the next couple weeks I'll do it again because yeah, it's too heavy. But yeah, tremendously hot. It's still pretty hot. I've got a fan on, but it's pretty low, so hopefully it's not distracting. But anyway, we are back. It's been kind of fragmented and fractured, but this is our third entry in our current series of British crime films. This is from 2004, Layer Cake, starring Daniel Craig. This was the directorial debut for director Matthew Vaughn, who before this had been a producer. In fact, he produced two of the more famous British crime films, the two Guy Ritchie films, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels and Snatch. But this is his first film that he would direct, and he's gone on to have a pretty good career that way. He's directed several movies I like, including like the only X-Men movie I like, X-Men First Class. I guess he's most famous now for the Kingsman movies.
Yeah,
of which
I'm a
there's
big
been
fan
two,
of those.
and a third is coming out soon. It is called The King's Man. So, okay. But he also, after this, he did Stardust, which is a pretty decent adaptation of a Neil Gaiman story. And he did Kick-Ass, which is pretty cool, too. So, yeah. Also, since 2002, he's been married to supermodel Claudia Schiffer, so I'm sure life is great for him.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah. They are the same age, though.
Huh.
But anyway, yeah, so this is right before Daniel Craig would become an international superstar, because when he was cast as James Bond, a lot of people, including myself, didn't really know him. I think maybe I'd heard his name, but I don't think I'd seen him in anything. And I can still, it shows how quickly time passes, because I can still remember what the lead up was like, and the huge backlash where people were upset about his casting. They had all these.
He was blonde.
One was his hair was too fair. He was 5'11", which apparently would have made him look really short, which of course he doesn't. But he was technically the shortest actor to play Bond, but I don't think 5'11" is short. Yeah, but people were just seizing on any reason and all sorts of stuff. My mother detests him and hates him as Bond, so
I agree with you.
She didn't go on the internet and whine about it though.
I don't like his Bond movies, but it's not because of him, really. It's just I don't like the direction they've gone with those movies.
Yeah, and I really think they started out with great promise, because I love the first one, the very first one that he did, Casino Royale. I love that movie. And then seeing Quantum Solace, which was so bad. And the fact was, like, most people, like, Skyfall was the one everybody really likes. And I'm kind of underwhelmed by Skyfall. And Spectre I had huge hopes for. And again, it was kind of just okay. And what's disappointing now is, No Time to Die was supposed to come out ages ago, but of course, like many movies, has been delayed. So at the end of the day, he's the longest tenured Bond, like 2006 to 2021. So that's like 15 years.
So that'll be the fifth film?
It'll be the fifth. So he's not the most prolific in that Roger Moore did 7. But as far as like time goes, but yeah, I it would have been great, I think, if not great, but I mean, ideal. I think Spectre probably should have been the last one. This one, like, I'm going to watch it like I watch all of them and stuff, but I don't really have much hopes or anything for this. I just kind of want to wipe the slate clean and get started with a new actor. And that's nothing to do with him. Like, I think he's fine, but, it's time.
I just wish they would scale them down.
They age out of these. Yeah, they're all like 2 hours and 45 minutes long now. Like, they don't need to be like that.
They feel like a Michael Bay film or something like that to me, Just big, blockbuster movies, and that's just really not what Bond was. I mean, I think the Pierce Brosnan days probably is what led up to that. But
I don't know. I mean, they always had big action things, and I mean, they were sort of known for like being excess and stuff that many movies. It's kind of the blueprint that got laid down for big things like the Fast and the Furious movies and stuff like that.
Right.
It's like lots of glamorous things, and whether it's exotic locales, beautiful women, awesome cars and gadgets, and that. But anyway, we can talk a little more about Bond later. But getting back to this movie, so this is right before that when he was probably not that well known outside of like British film, 2004. And watching this movie, he looks a bit gaunt too, compared to he really bulked up for Bond. He put on a substantial amount of muscle for Bond. But because you do see him, people love Skyfall.
People love Skyfall.
I think it's fine, but I can't go beyond that. To me, it's fine. I don't really have any. I disagree with that too. I really can't stand Days of Future Past. I can't stand. I don't want to go down that thing with all my comic book stuff, but Days of Future Past, like I don't like seeing great arcs and having their names slathered on movies that in no way represent them. But I hate all the X-Men movies. I hate them all, except I like First Class, kind of.
Wolverine. You like Wolverine?
No.
Logan. Logan.
No.
Really?
I mean, I don't hate it the way I hate X-Men movies, but I mean, it's still the same stuff. I don't know. It's boring to me. It's Wolverine going on a slow, depressing road trip in like a semi-post-apocalyptic world.
You don't like to see Patrick Stewart with Alzheimer's?
No, that's sad too. That's really sad.
I'll be honest, man. I'll take some of those X-Men movies over any of the Marvel Universe movies that they're doing now.
No, I'm the complete opposite. I really think they've hit their stride with the MCU movies. I think they're actually been getting better and better. I can't stand the X-Men movies. They all feel fake and phony, and I hate the casting. And anyway, blah blah blah. So, and it makes me really sad that we can't just finally merge them. Because that's the one thing. As much as I like these MCU movies, they feel like they have a gigantic hole in them because the X-Men and mutants don't exist. Like it bugs the shit out of me that we had like the Scarlet Witch up on here, and we can't say she's a mutant, and we can't say Magneto's her dad. Like that drives me nuts. But anyway, I have time to go that.
So back to Layer Cake. Your first time watch. What was your initial thoughts?
I mean, it's a really tight movie. I think it's you're definitely engaged right away. You want to know what's going on, and you like following it. It has a lot of characters to keep track of, and different factions. So it can be a challenging on the first watch of keeping everybody straight and remembering who's with who and why they're doing what they're doing. I mean, there's worse movies for that, but yeah. So that makes it a little challenging. But still, I mean, mostly I'd say it's a good narrative. It flows nicely. It kept my attention the whole time. I mean, we'll get there. I found the ending a little anticlimactic, but at the same time, I realized this movie, much like a lot of these British crime movies, the whole point is, they're not James Bond or something. They're not moving towards some massive action piece, right? That's not really what goes on in most of these movies that we talk about. So I mean, maybe I was a little disappointed, but at the same time, maybe if there was, some big, I don't know, shootout or car chase or something like that. What's funny is, jumping ahead, there is a part that has that, and it actually takes place off screen, right? Like there's one gang hits the other and robs them, but we only see the aftermath. But no, overall a good story. This is based on the novel of the same name by author J.J. Connolly, who wrote the script for the movie. So that's always a plus when you can get that going. And I think it's a very good script. I mean, I like his character. He's not named. Daniel Craig's character, and it's a little. It makes for an interesting contrast from the last movie we saw, which is also sort of a first-person narrative because both guys narrate. Right, this movie opens with. It backs off a bit, but it opens and closes with his narration, just like the narrating that was going on in Rise of the Foot Soldier. But they're two really different guys. Where one guy, basically, he was so good at violence, that's what basically got him into the criminal world, that he had a penchant for violence and he was good at it. And then as he moved up, he tried to move out of it. Whereas this was a guy that was attached to the criminal world, but all along, was against violence and would try everything he could to avoid that side of it and not involve himself in it. And of course, this movie's about how he event does get pulled into it. So very different there.
He's more of a businessman than foot soldier.
Right.
He doesn't. And he doesn't like guns. He doesn't like violence. So he just wants to get in, get out.
Yeah.
And I think the end. Well, I know we'll get to the ending, but I think it really just emphasizes the the hierarchy that like layer cake from the title.
Yeah.
That it everyone is expendable. Everyone positions can switch on the flip of a coin. So
Yeah.
because it's is it Jimmy's nephew is who kills him at the end? Spoiler alert. Or
No,
we don't know that he dies, but who shoots
yeah, we
him?
don't know for sure that he's dead. No, that's actually what the idiot's nephew. That's actually the Duke's nephew.
Oh, it's Duke's nephew. Okay. Yeah, I knew
That's
he was
actually
someone
Ben
else.
Whishaw, and he looks completely I know he's super young there, but he's completely unrecognizable to me there because his hair is too short and he's got facial hair. I'm used to him kind of looking the way I look, like clean shaven with like long wispy hair. Like I couldn't believe that was him.
I'm not familiar with him.
You've heard me go on about him because I was blabbing about how I kind of had a crush on him when we were watching what's it called, Cloud Atlas. He was in the storyline about being the guy that was in like the 30s that was helping the composer.
Okay.
Remember, he was helping the composer, but he's writing letters back to his boyfriend or lover or whatever, talking about it. That's Ben Whishaw. Actually, he's in the Bond series. He's the new Q in the current Bond series. I think he gets introduced in like Skyfall or whatever. But anyway,
yeah, he's done tons of stuff.
Yeah, and he usually looks really kind of bookish and stuff. He often has glasses. He looks so different here. And now, again, he must be really young there. He must be like barely 20 in that movie in Layer Cake. But he just looks so different to me with his hair short and he's got a little bit of, he has like a goatee or something. But another thing, just before we get back to the narrative and stuff, talking about the actors. So the guy that plays Gene, which was one of the two guys that is sort of like his advisor guys, because he had Gene. And then he had like the black Jamaican guy was Morty, right?
Morty.
Those were sort of the two guys. And I knew who Morty was because I'd recognized him in a very famous British film series, Harry Potter. He has a small role as African wizard Kingsley Shacklebolt. So that I recognized him right off as from that guy. But this guy, his name is Colin Meaney.
Yeah. And
he's been in a lot of stuff. But I was sure, and maybe it could be an uncredited role, but usually even when somebody has an uncredited role, it shows up in their filmography somewhere. I was sure what I knew him from was I thought for sure this was the guy that like goes into the interrogation room with the Joker in The Dark Knight and takes his cuffs off and then gets like beaten up by the Joker. I was positive that was him, but on like nothing in his filmography mentions it. And
I don't remember the actor.
Yeah, I was sure that was him, and I still could be right because sometimes when you have little small roles like that, they aren't always credited. But I couldn't find out for sure.
Even on IMDb, they'll put uncredited or whatever.
Yeah, so maybe it's not, but he looked so. I mean, and obviously in that movie he wouldn't have been speaking with a British accent, but
I know him from Star Trek: Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I see that he was on one of the Star Treks. And as I said, it's got a fairly significant filmography going all the way back to the 80s. He actually has a small part in Die Hard 2 as a pilot.
Yeah, it's really a hell of a cast. I mean, it's the who's who of British character actors in there.
Michael Gambon.
Tom Hardy, of all people.
Again, kind of before Tom Hardy was more known, I think, over here. Just like Craig. But Michael Gambon. It's interesting because I just watched him play a gangster in another movie, a movie I've been wanting to see for years, The Thief. How's it go? It goes, the thief, his wife, the thief, the cook, his wife, the cook. It goes, the cook, the thief, his wife, and her lover. In that, Michael Gambon plays a British gangster. But he has a slight, when we're hearing him speak here, that's more or less his normal voice. He has a slightly different accent, just very, I can't explain it because I'm not great at, distinguishing different sort of regional accents over there. But he has a slightly different accent in that movie, and he's a much different kind of gangster in that movie. In this one, he's a more cold, calculating guy that's been around that's been around, a long time and blah blah blah. Whereas in the aforementioned movie, he's he's a crime boss, but he's much more of a lout. He's like brutish and thuggish and yeah, just like in your face all the time. He's a really crazy character. Like I said, the only comparison I can think of for his character, he's not quite as crazy, but it's something like Frank Booth in Blue Velvet. And this is just like a guy that's like constantly antagonizing everybody around him. But in the whole point in that movie is like that the idea is he's this thug gangster who's basically, risen through the ranks. And yes, and that's true. Michael Gambon is, for most people, the definitive Dumbledore because he played him the most times. Richard Harris was only in the first two movies before he died. I liked Harris more, but he died, so it's not like they just recast him. Gambon's pretty good. And again, it shows his range, because it's interesting, this movie came out in 2004, so that's right around the time he made his debut as Dumbledore. And you see a bit of his range, because he's so warm, he's so warm in those movies. And of course this, he's more of a cold, villainous character. But anyway, the point I was making about the other gangster he plays in that other movie is like, the whole deal is, he's this thuggish, really violent asshole guy who terrorizes everyone around him. But the thing is, like, he owns this restaurant and he eats there every night. And the whole point is he's trying to show everybody around him that, like, he's actually of high culture, that he's very educated and stuff. And it all is ridiculous because he's constantly like misquoting things or mispronouncing things or trying to say things in French and stuff like that. And it's but anyway, so separated by quite a few years. That's like what, 89 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And this is 2004. But anyway, both times he's playing like a crime boss, but very different. But yeah.
Yeah, people talking about Gambon. What did you think of that movie? I know you watched it recently.
Oh, it was great.
Really?
I mean, it's a really unique movie. Like, there's not much you can compare it to. It's a really interesting movie. It almost feels like a play, the way it's done, because it only has like a couple locations. Like, all the locations are the restaurant, and then there's the only location that's not the restaurant is the cook or whatever, his apartment. That's the only thing. And the idea is they move between the sets, and each set has its own color. And every time the characters move into the location, their clothes change to reflect the color. So you've got the alleyway, which is sort of like out behind. It's like, I guess it's like the alleyway, like behind the restaurant where I guess the delivery trucks and stuff would come. You move that into the kitchen, which doesn't look like a normal kitchen. It's just like this big, really open place. It's green. It's tinged green. So anytime the characters go in there, suddenly their clothes are green. The dining room, everything is red and full of these not Renaissance, a little after, I guess Renaissance Dutch paintings that really inspired the look. It's all very red, and the characters wear red. So as they move, and I guess, and the alleyway, I guess, is blue. So in between those, the characters just instantly, they're and there's the white bathroom. This is a white bathroom. So those are the main locations, all within the restaurant. There's only like one or two scenes outside of that, which is it's not even an apartment. It's like he's like a bookseller, and it's like a bookstore. But yeah, that's right. Tim Roth is one of the henchmen guys. Tim Roth is such a good actor. I just watched, and I don't want to go on far, but I finally watched Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is just amazing. It's like a masterclass of acting between Tim Roth and Gary Oldman in the titular roles. Like, their back and forth in chemistry is just ridiculous. It's another one of those reminders of how good like these classically trained British actors are. Just anyway, but yeah, Michael Gambon's very good in this.
But yeah,
Tom Hardy.
I actually saw this right when it came out on DVD in like 2005 or so, something like that.
Yeah.
Someone must have recommended it to me, or maybe it was a guy at like Blockbuster or something that said, check it out. But I really liked it a lot. And really the only complaint I have about it is, you already mentioned the number of characters. It's hard to keep track of everyone.
Yeah.
Because it's like 30, mostly white dudes that are constantly getting killed off, and they've got weird names, and
a lot of them have like nicknames and stuff. But yeah, it's hard because like there's different factions, right? You've got the main character, Daniel Craig, who doesn't have a name, so we'll just call him Daniel Craig, who's got his outfit. But then he's also got like other people he works with. There's those two con artist guys that he first says, you know, you look for the girl. They're kind of their own thing. There's also the guys they try to have business with, who they've had business with before, who say no, you can't because we found out. And then of course there's the bad guys, which is these Serbian or something war criminals that have made their own thing. And then there's also the organization run by the Duke.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Duke stole the ecstasy pills from the Serbians, right?
Yeah, and that's what kicked the whole thing off.
Yeah.
Like he was, because, and I mean, you know, something like that's coming because in the opening monologue, you know, he's talking about the best way to, you know, work in this business is to treat it as a business. He's like, but there's always assholes out there that want to make a name for themselves and they want to be dramatic and loud, and they always fuck up. Yeah. And that's exactly what he's talking about with the Duke, because that's what he's like. He's just this loud, brash asshole that thinks he can just, you know, use force and get whatever he wants. And of course, that sets everything off. That he's dumb enough to, you know, rob these very, very dangerous Serbs who are war criminals in their own country.
And then they've hired like an assassin sniper guy to get the pills back and kill.
Right, Dragon.
Kill whoever stole them.
The actor's real name is Dragon, and he's also in another British crime film. He's in Rock and Rolla. Oh. So a lot of these guys have made their mark in the genre in probably more than one appearance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his real name is Dragon, which I thought was amusing.
That's funny.
They're like, that's a pretty tough name. We'll just keep it.
Yeah, let's go with it.
Draven. I'm not going to get this right. It looks like Mikhanovic, but it could be Mikhanovic or Mikhanovic. I don't know. Not sure how to pronounce those C's.
Yeah, he's, Romanian in real life or something?
He is... No, he is Serbian. Look at that. That's authentic.
Oh, very cool.
Anyway, yeah. What's funny is, like, he's an important character, but he's, like, not on screen for most of it. A lot of the time, you know, it's just, like, his voice as he's watching from afar, which is cool. You know, it adds to his mystique, his danger. He's very, you know, he's the really dangerous guy in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's always one step ahead of Daniel Craig.
Right, but it's an interesting narrative for a couple reasons. One is because I think, you know, you first think the movie's going to be about one thing, and then it kind of changes. Because you think, oh, his thing here is looking for the girl, right? The whole thing is he's going to, you know, he's going to get out. He's done. He's going to make enough money that he doesn't even have to take these risks anymore. But then he gets called in by Price and says, you know, you're going to do two favors for me first, and then you can get out. And one of them is to locate the missing daughter of his supposed friend and associate. So at first you think that's what the movie's going to be. It's going to be his search for the girl. But the movie does not quite go that way as you know, the plot progresses and more is revealed. So that's kind of interesting. It's kind of a twist, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, she'd be the daughter of Eddie Temple, and that's who Michael Gambon is, who isn't in the first half of the movie. But it's the other guy. It's Price, Jimmy Price, that's sort of sets things in motion. And yeah, it all comes from this big shipment of ecstasy pills that the Duke has gotten a hold of. Again, we find out later that he, you know, ripped off these Serbians to get it, and they're trying to do a sale. And at first, they go to, I think, and they use them to, I guess he's sort of, like you said, he's sort of like a middleman as far as Okay, I'll stop and consider this question from Jacob. I mean, Booth is just the weirdest by far. Obviously, he's so weird. But I mean, Gambon's interesting too because like it's his restaurant, so it's like his own little kingdom. So like there's just ordinary people that just show up to the restaurant and they don't know anything, and suddenly there's this loud, crazy guy, and like he'll just do whatever he wants to them, and they probably have no idea why. So that's interesting too. I mean, it would be between those two. Not that I don't like Sexy Beast. That's good too. You know, Kingsley's menacing in Sexy Beast. But I think there's a little bit of pathos in his character.
Yeah.
Whereas with Booth, and Gambon's character, like, no, they're just lunatics that you don't feel anything for. Like, they barely feel human. They're just crazy assholes. I guess I still give it to Booth just for how insane he is, because he's got all the weirdness. Like, he'll just rant and rave, and the whole baby thing is really disturbing. But I give it to Gambon. I mean, the opening scene is him like having some guy stripped naked and then like smeared in dog shit. So that's like the first thing you see him doing to somebody in the movie while he's screaming at him. So, I mean, yeah, it's an interesting movie. I don't want to go too far, but and one of the things that always drew me to it, and I wanted to see it for so long, is like it's a very sumptuous and decadent looking movie visually, but it's also full of squick like that, like, and I mean, there's some cannibalism stuff at the end. Obviously, that's a bit of a big spoiler, but it does come in there, and yeah, and then there's so it has some really icky things in it too. It's interesting. It's a really interesting movie. Like I said, there's really not much you can compare it to. I can't think of even movies since that like it's really its own thing. So I really am glad I finally got around to being able to see it.
It's been on my list forever, man. I think I may finally have somewhere to watch it now.
I'm sure you would enjoy it. It very much plays out like some sort of like twisted, fucked up play. Is really how it plays out. It's good though, and you do get to see Helen Mirren's world famous breasts in this movie back when she was in her early 40s. So that's something, I suppose, too. But yeah, it was pretty much everything I hoped it to be, for sure. It's a movie, one of those movies that totally met my expectations.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, very pleased. Yeah, so Michael Gambon, or Gambon, I'm not sure which way, but yeah, he's in this movie. He's just more of a sort of ordinary, cold, menacing type of guy, that we've seen. He's a crime lord who's risen to the top by being smart and ruthless, blah blah blah. But not that it's boring or anything. I mean, it fits. And when he does show up and explain things, it does change. It changes the narrative, right? Because the whole thing is Price. He's not out. Our main character, Craig, is not commissioned by Price to find like his own daughter. It's to find the daughter of his associate, and then you find out later that he never wanted him to do that, and it was a way to cover his own ass. The whole thing was he's the one who kidnapped her in the first place, and he was going to use her as leverage to try to get him to get money back on a failed business venture.
Yeah, apparently, yeah. And he blames, Jimmy blames Eddie for losing the money, because apparently he met this guy at his golf thing.
Yeah. So then he just says, oh, this was like some sort of setup or something like that.
Makes no fucking sense.
No, but, he's that kind of character, right?
So he kidnapped his daughter.
He fucked up, but he has to blame somebody else for it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. But yeah, like the first like half hour of the movie or so, you think, okay, I get it. He's going to be searching for this girl, but it doesn't work out that way at all. In fact, we don't even have any scenes of her that aren't flashback. Like we never actually see what she's doing, and he just mentions later, I've got her and I've sent her off to like rehab or whatever. Because the other thing is, yeah, she's got like a pretty bad like cocaine and drug habit.
Yeah,
and causes her to like slum around with drug addicts and shit. I'm sure it would be an embarrassment to, even though he's a crime boss, but he's a man of high stature, so it's probably an embarrassment to him to have his daughter behave in that manner.
And then Eddie finds out that Jimmy is a police informant, and he's planning on basically setting up Daniel Craig, so he'll go to jail and Jimmy will get to keep his money.
I was pretty surprised when he actually kills him.
Yeah.
Because, the whole thing was he'd never killed anyone before, used violence and stuff, but I guess he just felt like there was no other option, that he just had to kill him. The other thing that surprised me, maybe I would have understood it a little better if I'd seen the movie more than once, was just how mad Gene and Morty are at him when they find out he killed him. And, I had to go back and read some stuff to make it understand a little better, because the truth is, that Gene and Morty do not exactly work directly for Daniel Craig. They are basically kind of his liaison between him, and the criminal world, like he said. So I guess what they're saying is Gene, had worked for Price for a long time, and I guess actually kind of liked him. So that's why he's like beating the shit out of him and really mad that he killed him. At first, I didn't really understand why he was so mad. I didn't know why he had that attachment, but I had to read to find out that, yeah, it's like when the movie is ending, they've now sort of, acknowledged him as their new boss. But before this, it's more like Price was their boss, and he's, kind of off to the side, somebody that they work with. There's also a weird bit with the whole thing is like, as he's going through this, Morty is sort of his like muscle, right? He's the guy that has experience with the violent side, and he's always there to protect him. And then he winds up becoming absent from the movie for a while because he finds this guy in just sort of a weird coincidence that is responsible. You find out later is responsible for him going to jail for 10 years. So he just publicly beats him half to death, and then he's just like, I'm gonna have to be gone for a while. So it's like, whoops, there goes your bodyguard, and the guy that knows knows all the stuff that I don't about, how to survive in the harsh criminal world. Like, now he's gone and I'm on my own. So yeah, like, it's not for no reason. It's just sort of funny though. He's like, yeah, I'm going to be gone for a while. Yeah, there's good style to this movie, period. I mean, for a directorial debut, I like a lot of like the cuts and stuff. There's some good transitions there between scenes and things like that. I really like the opening monologue where he's talking about, drugs and their place in the world, and it shows like a world he's imagining that doesn't exist yet, where it's just, like drugs are all legal. So it's like, here, just just buy your cocaine and heroin out of a nice box at the drugstore. I like that bit a lot.
Yeah,
a bit of surrealism to it. It reminded me a bit of another British drug movie. Some of the surrealism bits that are in Trainspotting. I mean, the movie doesn't stay with that. It's just the opening, but I liked it. Reminded me of Fight Club too, for some reason that I can't really recall. But I don't know. Maybe in just talking about maybe the world and consumerism, I guess is probably what did it.
I'm glad Jacob said this because I didn't want to forget. I really like that too. There's a few little, interesting stylistic things they do in there.
Yeah, I like the camera work. I like some of the cuts and transitions, fairly artfully done. Like things that could have been more simple that they decided just dress it up a little, look good. So yeah, that's pretty impressive for a first time director, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Cinematography by Ben Davis. See what else Ben Davis has done. Cannibal Rising. Oh, he worked with him again for Stardust and Kick-Ass. So he's kind of like his guy. Oh, wow. He was the cinematographer for Avengers Age of Ultron and Doctor Strange and Captain Marvel. Wow, he's really come up in the world. So not surprising at all, I guess, to see that level of talent so early, and look where it's gotten him, doing some really big movies. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh.
So like multiple big Marvel movies. And it's funny, he didn't actually do either of the first two Kingsman movies, but apparently he's going to do the third one. So good for him. Yeah, that's I said Ben Davis. So pretty accomplished cinematographer there. So but yeah, he's really in the Marvel thing. He's going to be the cinematographer Eternals too. We do not have time for me to talk about Eternals. Of all Marvel movies, we just do not have the time for that.
Well, we haven't mentioned Sienna Miller yet, and I was thinking that she had more screen time, but she really doesn't have a whole.
She really doesn't. She's there for like 2 scenes, like when he meets her at the club, and then when he meets her at the hotel. And then she's there for 2 seconds at the end. I mean, very attractive, I guess. But I have to say, like, certain British accents don't do it for me. Like, when she's, like, joking with him and trying to do some, like, phone sex, like, that doesn't work for me because of her accent.
Oh, I like it.
She's like, oh, me nipples are hard or something. I'm like, oh. No. I don't know. I'm very particular about the British accents. Most of them kind of turn me off.
Oh, I like it. Wasn't she married to like Jude Law or somebody?
I I wouldn't be
Had a baby with
surprised.
him or something. 'Cause I know she worked with Jude Law on like Alfie or some movie that they
Yeah,
did
you're
together.
right. She was married to Jude Law twice? What the hell? I'm confused. Let's take a look here. It looks like she was married to him twice. Personal life. Let's see here. Became engaged to Jude Law in 2004. Law had an affair with their nanny,
Oh yes, I remember that.
and they separated in 2006. Then they were back together, and then they split again. So yeah, so they were together twice. They've been split for 10 years though, and I don't think she's remarried. By the look of things, she has not remarried. Although obviously she's had relationships with various people, but she's not remarried. She's one of the
Engaged.
billion people that had like her phone hacked, like everybody else in the world. But I have not really seen too many movies. You're right. Like she was in Alfie with Jude Law, and I know I've mentioned this before, but 2004, Jude Law was in like 16 movies. It's quite the year for him.
Let me pull this up real quick.
Oh, she played the Baroness in G.I. Joe: Rise of Cobra. Huh. So unrecognizable there with dark hair and glasses. Yeah. No, I have not really seen her and stuff. I mean, she only would have been about 22 in this movie, and she's very attractive now too, obviously. But
I don't know, Jacob. You be the judge.
She's in Foxchector, but I don't remember her at all. I don't remember anyone.
This is the nanny. That's actually looks kind of similar.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's what it is when you're Jude Law, though. It's just like women throwing your. I'm not blaming the women. I'm blaming him. I'm just saying, like, it would have been too easy for him.
Maybe don't have an attractive nanny.
Like early in his career, he had several roles where the only point of his character was that he was handsome. Like in Midnight of the Garden of Good and Evil, the point of his character is that he was handsome. Like the whole point of Alfie is that he's handsome. Stuff like that.
I remember I guess. Around that period of time, Jude Law was in like everything.
Yeah, as I said, in 2004, he was in Alfie, Sky Captain, in the World of Tomorrow, which is a horrendous flop, which I saw in theater because I thought it looked cool, but it was terrible. Closer.
Oh, that's a good movie.
Yeah, it's emotionally gut wrenching though. I can't watch it anymore. But and at least one other movie in that year. But yeah, 2004, 2005, he was just in a ton of stuff.
Was it Enemy at the Gates? Was that year?
No, that was 2002. I remember that really well because that was my first date with one of my girlfriends. So I remember that quite well. That's probably the first movie where I noticed him.
That's a good movie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a cool movie. I haven't seen that in a long time. It'd be good to see again. But yeah, like with most actors, the first time I've saw them in a movie is not always the first time I've noticed them, especially for going back to like when I was a kid. You know, there's plenty of times where I saw actors, but it wasn't until a certain role that, you know, I sort of noticed who they were. So, but yeah, for me, for Jude Law, it was Enemy at the Gates. If I'd seen him in anything before that, I don't know. I'm not entirely sure when I first saw Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. That's a pretty small role. He's a guy that has like one scene and then is dead. But you know, I just watched a series that he was the star of. I think it's called The Third Day or something like that, or The Something Day or The Third. Anyway, so like 7 or 8 episodes. He's the main guy. It was pretty good. It was a little bit of a letdown. It wasn't quite as weird and fucked up as I wanted it to be, but it wasn't bad. But yeah, he's the main guy in that. The Something Today, I don't know. But yeah, no, I Sienna Miller's not even a name that I really recognize. I didn't know anything about her career or her relationship with Jude Law. I mean, I guess she's been in quite a few movies, but I haven't seen most of them, and the ones that I've seen, I don't really remember her.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I always meant to see The Lost City of Zed or Z or whatever, but I didn't see it. She's got spitted stuff recently. This whole thing about how she had sort of a hiatus and a comeback. Yeah, screen hiatus 2009 to 2011, resurgence 2012 to 2017. Yeah, I guess. Anyway, you get to see her in some pretty sexy underwear briefly in this movie, but all too brief because he gets kidnapped and he's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about blue balls, man.
Oh man, very true. To go from thinking you're about to get some with a super attractive woman to having two guys like knock you out and put a sack on your head and drag you away. Not cool. But there is another interesting female character in the movie, and that's Slasher, who is like the girlfriend of the Duke. Yeah. She's kind of exactly the kind of girlfriend you expect him to have. She's just like this
loud, obnoxious,
that probably insists on being part of it, right? Because the whole thing is like he involves her in all the criminal stuff. Like most guys probably wouldn't do that. They keep their girlfriend to the side.
Right.
But no, she's like part of the gang, and it shows her fuck up a bit, right? Because at one point, when it flashes back to the robbery of the Serbs, she's just like all the rest. She's got a gun. She's holding guns on them. And she actually winds up talking to their boss. And the boss is, saying like how she's just a little girl and she shouldn't be doing this and how it's, it's not going to work out and stuff. And he freaks her out so much that like when one of the employees comes through the door, she just blows him away with like an Uzi or something.
Oh yeah.
And she's really what gets him killed. Like probably he was going to get himself killed at some point anyway, the Duke, but she's what makes him get killed. Because she starts ranting and raving, remember, saying that like, oh, like if you won't fix this or whatever, I will go to the cops. He's like, what? No, we're not going to get the cops. She's like, I will. I'll get the cops. And the guy that's with Jean just shoots her and then shoots the Duke too. It's like, what else can I do?
Well, yeah, he shoots her, and then he looks at Jean, and Jean makes kind of a face, and he shoots Duke also.
Yeah, it's like
that's a really cool scene.
There's actress Sally Hawkins. But the scenes with her and Duke are pretty funny. It's mostly just her freaking out and him yelling at her. A lot of stuff.
I'm definitely looking forward to that, Jacob. I don't know what's the release date on that. Do they have one?
No, I don't think so. But yeah, I'm definitely excited.
Yeah. Now that I have a 4K player, I'm looking forward to watching Possessor in 4K.
Oh yeah, nice.
I just watched the DVD the first time. Well, I mean the Blu-ray the first time, which looked great.
Yeah. Love that movie.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I feel like there's probably a lot of things that I missed the first time. So
funny how Daniel Craig's character in some ways reminds me a little bit of, although he's a little different, but like Turkish in Snatch, played by Jason Statham. They've been talking for years about making a sequel to this. And originally they were going to have Jason Statham play Daniel Craig's character for it, but I guess that fell through.
Yeah, I guess it's not happening now.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's been...
Then they said they might make it into a show, but I have no idea. It says this is back in 2015, it was reported there would be a TV show for Garamond International Television, but I mean that's 6 years ago, so nothing since then. So probably not. But yeah, it was Jason Statham's own production company. Of course, he has a production company, and it was going to be called Viva la Madness. And Statham was
That's an odd choice of a name.
But that's not the production company. That's the sequel's name.
Right.
Okay, because I don't know.
I would call it like carrot cake or something.
Yes. Yeah, they have to stick with the cake theme, otherwise, what's the point? It'll have to be like, something more complicated than layer cake. It'd have to be like devil's food cake.
Oh yeah, that's a good name. So if they were going to make a sequel, so that basically means that he didn't die, right?
That he didn't die. Yeah.
Which that kind of sucks because I like it being open ended.
Well, I mean, it didn't happen, so I guess it's left that way. But yeah, it is an interesting ending. It did surprise me, and I don't know what kind of point it's trying to make, but to me, the point seems to be like you can think that you're really smart as a criminal, and you're doing all the things right. Like this, the stuff he got pulled into really wasn't his fault, and he did what he could to get himself out of it. And he showed that he was smart throughout. Like the whole thing was he was a cautious, smart guy. He didn't get involved in the usual bullshit a lot of these criminals do. He's really smart. But in the end, why did he get shot? Well, because he stole another guy's girl. You don't do that, right? You don't steal another guy's girl.
Right. I like how he apologizes before he shoots him.
Yeah. Well, not every guy is. Yeah. Like it's just like I had to. Stand up for your woman. I can understand it. You're just some idiot, and your only claim to fame is that your uncle is kind of a big deal, except as it turns out, your uncle's an asshole that most people don't like. But you've got this beautiful girlfriend, and then some like cool, smart, wealthy guy comes and just takes her from you. I get it.
Oh yeah, he was eyeing her like crazy when he first met her.
Yeah,
understandably.
Yeah, understandably, and it also again it sort of speaks to like his one flaw, right? Because he's in the middle of everything, and yet he's being completely distracted by this girl, to the point that he's just like, we got to meet up, and that's what leaves him vulnerable to getting. I mean, they probably would have been able to get him sooner or later, but he's quite vulnerable there. Like he's like in a robe. Yeah. But it does sort of show that like as smart and calculating, good as he is, like he's got a weak spot, and his weak spot is obviously women. Either that or it's just this one fantastic girl. But yeah, I mean, understandably, because she's like giving it right back to him. She's out on the dance floor, like locking eyes with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yep, that's a green light.
Driving his bright yellow Range Rover.
Yeah, pointing out like what an asshole he is as like a flashy. Trying to be a flashy criminal when you should be doing like the exact opposite. Keep a low profile, all that stuff. But he's right, though. I mean, that is a real truth of sort of the criminal world.
Absolutely.
We often hear about those kind of guys, and they're the guys that get killed and arrested. But then there's the smarter ones that are more low key, and they get away with it, and they get to continue on.
I don't think I've seen Happy Go Lucky, Jacob. But,
I have not either.
I may have to add that to my list.
I like the soundtrack of this movie.
Oh, it's on HBO.
Just got some sort of classic British stuff. Not 100% British. I know Kylie Minogue is like Australian, but she was a big star in England. But yeah, it's one of the songs of the club, the Can't Get You Out of My Head thing. Ordinary World by Duran Duran, everyone that's playing.
It was some interesting choices on some of the soundtrack. Like when like some really tense moments, it was like maybe when after he had killed Jimmy, he was taking pills and drinking.
Yeah.
It was like it was odd noises. It'd be like beeping and stuff, and I kept
I didn't know what that was either. I was thinking, there was that whole thing where he just found something out or something, right? Or he got a call, and all that beeping happens. Or is that beeping? That's the lead up to him killing Jimmy, is it? That weird beeping, I think.
Either it's there, or maybe in more than one spot too. But I think it may happen after his sniper gets shot by a dragon.
Right.
When he's back, he realizes that now I have to find these ecstasy pills.
Yeah. Or I'm going to ecstasy. British group XTC is also on the soundtrack. So that seems fitting.
Very British.
You got the classic "Gimme Shelter" by the Rolling Stones, which is in so many like crime movies.
Yeah.
It's in a lot of crime movies.
It is. Isn't it in Goodfellas?
I think
Like one of
so. It's in The Departed.
Oh,
I think there's like 3 Stone songs in The Departed.
Scorsese's a fan.
Yeah, The Departed is loaded with songs. The only one I'm a big fan of this song, but I didn't think works, and that is Comfortably Numb by Pink Floyd. That's the scene where Leo DiCaprio is like either like just had sex with the psychologist or whatever. And at some point he's like running around in the rain feeling like all weird and emotional, and Comfortably Numb plays, and I don't feel like it fits. I like the song, I just don't feel like it fits.
I don't like a lot of the music choices in Scorsese films. I really think he goes overboard with using
I think he goes
roll
overboard.
songs. I mean,
I'm a fan of those.
Man, you know?
Yeah, sometimes. I just felt like Comfortably Numb didn't fit, and I remember the very first like trailer I saw for the movie. Comfortably Numb was like the thing. It played throughout the whole thing. That was like what they played through the trailer, which I think it worked okay for the trailer, but in the movie itself, I don't think it really works.
It's
such a really great.
It's such a known song, man. Like you're picking, like top 10 songs from that year and stuff. Like, come on, maybe go a little more obscure or something. It's
kind of the opposite of like Tarantino, who's just like, I want to pick like the really obscure stuff.
I like that though. I like that
Tarantino thing. I guess I kind of like maybe somewhere in between. It always depends.
Well, I mean, Tarantino is more obscure for obscure's sake, right? I mean, obscure for just because I'm Tarantino and I'm weird. More so than this is my choice for the film.
But I mean, both of them, the one thing they have in common is like they don't think like any music was made like after like 1980. So I don't think either of them featured any. I mean, at least in the case of Scorsese, you could say, well, he's an old bastard.
Oh, that goes back to something we were talking about recently on Mean Streets, the track that they used there and got sued for.
Yeah, it was funny. That was Be My Baby. Yeah, I guess it's just because, it was like this small independent movie they didn't think was going to make any waves or get noticed. So they didn't get like the rights to like the music. And for years afterwards, because of a lawsuit, they got dinged for the royalties or whatever for Be My Baby. So it continued giving money to, I believe, Phil Spector, among others. Might just be Phil Spector because he was such a bastard. He probably made it that he was the only one that got money out of it.
I like a lot of Scorsese films. Some of his recent stuff with his battle against Netflix and stuff, and it's not a real movie if it doesn't come out of theaters and whatever the crap he's.
Yeah, I don't want to hear him telling me. Yeah,
he's been very outspoken about all that stuff, and it really puts a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, I think he's been very elitist about it.
Exactly. Like of course you're going to say that coming from someone whose movies go to the fucking movie theater,
Yeah.
But
and blabbing about how like big superhero movies, like how terrible they are, and they don't take risks, and they're like amusement park rides. And like, I don't think you've watched any.
Yeah.
I think maybe you've just watched it. Again, I'm not this person trying to make this argument that these superhero movies are big, really deep, and they're like the pinnacle of art. I don't think that, but it seems to me like all he's done is like watch the previews. Well, not the actual movie.
My whole problem with it is like who is he to decide what's a movie and what's not a movie,
I know. Well, plenty of people will agree with him though, because they'll just say, well, he's a genius. He's one of the best filmmakers, blah 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 blah.
No, okay. Nolan said that. Sorry. Thanks for the
Scorsese said something isn't cinema. I know he did because it's loaded. That meme is all over the place, like him saying this is cinema. This is.
It may have been the Marvel, the comic book movies, like you were saying.
He said something isn't cinema because that's been all over the place. But I mean, I like Scorsese, a lot of his work. But my favorite line about that is him saying like they don't take risks. I'm thinking, what risks do you take when you make the same gangster movie over and over again for 40 years? They're all good, but I mean, where's the risk involved? I'm gonna have De Niro play a bad guy. Like, whoa, that's some risk right there.
He did Gangs of New York too, right?
Yeah.
Was that him?
Yeah, because that was just when he adopted DiCaprio, right? That became his new guy. Because he did like Gangs of New York and The Departed, and which I love. I love The Departed.
Howard Hughes movie,
Yeah,
Aviator.
The Aviator, which is also
I love
DiCaprio.
that movie.
I need to see it again. I mean, I'm
I
a big
love
fan.
Leo.
Oh yeah, I love Leo too. I like Leo a lot more than I like Scorsese.
I agree
Although,
with
I mean,
that.
that's hard to compare an actor to a director. I know. I'm surprised DiCaprio hasn't directed anything. He seemed like the total type of guy that would.
I mean, I don't disagree with that statement, Jacob. But I mean, it's like, I mean, didn't like Jaws kind of create that? I mean, it's not a new concept for like just a blockbuster,
Yeah, well, I still
spectacle
I
movies.
know his direct quotes. He said stuff like that. It's like I remember again what stuck on my mind. Him saying that they were like at a ride in an amusement park, and also he blabbed about them not taking risks,
Mm-hmm.
which are two things I take big issue with.
I would almost say it's the opposite. I mean, people take more risks now because we're not burning film, It's all digital. You just delete that shit and you're good. Like before you had to think about, oh, well, I don't want to waste the film. If we're not going to use it, I don't want to waste the film.
Plus, you have to think about the risk involved in the first time you're doing some of this stuff. Like it's these movies have proven to be huge successes, but it took a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, imagine pitching a movie with a plot like Avengers Infinity War, like, I don't know, in the 70s or 80s. Wouldn't most producers or peep studios go, what? That's too weird and complicated and full of characters. Like, that's too risky. Because to me, that sounds risky. Now, at this point, no, it's not risky. Everybody's hooked. Like, these are the movies, this is the cool thing, blah, blah, blah. But it's not like that just happened. You had to do something to get there. And I think that took a lot of risk. But anyway, I won't harp on it too much. But I mean, I'm a fan mostly of Scorsese's career, but I don't really like him as a person. And that was before any of this. And I mean, it might be a generational thing too. I mean, I know that we all live in the past in various ways, but I don't know. We get it, Scorsese. Like, New York in the 40s was the best thing ever. Y'all played stickball and.
I feel like he's just like shaking his fist at the sky all day, Like,
Yeah.
Okay, boomer.
Yeah. He's even older than the boomers. I know. He's even older than the boomers.
Is he?
Yeah. I think so. Let's make sure. Let's look at a date of birth here. 42. So yeah, he's pre-boomer.
Yeah,
not by much, but by a couple years. He's whatever the hell that thing was. He's 78 years old, so just a couple years older than the oldest. But again, I mean, great filmography, but I get a little bored of the gangster stuff, even though The Departed is probably my favorite movie of his. And the one thing I think I said the shorts, for years I resisted watching Raging Bull because I just assumed I wouldn't like it. And then when I finally saw it, I really liked it. So I recently watched The King of Comedy. Thought that was nothing.
You didn't like it?
No, not at all.
Well, you see where they got the Joker from.
Yeah, exactly. And I won't go that either, but people know I despise Joker. I think it's one of the worst things that's happened.
It's like if the King of Comedy met Taxi Driver, that's Joker.
That's doesn't even try to be anything different. But one of my problems with King of Comedy is, and I know you could say, oh, well, it's 1982 and things have changed, but I don't know. Like, it's really hard doing stand-up routines in movies for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe because the whole thing is, it's not real and it's fake and forced, so whatever the audience does is like, it's not real, not like an actual stand-up performance. It's hard to pin down, but stand-up sequences in movies are always awkward, even if it's a proven good comic who does real good stand-up in real life. And the thing I didn't really get about De Niro's character in that is I thought the whole point was he was a delusional idiot that didn't have talent. But then he goes on the show and everybody likes his dumb jokes. Like, I didn't understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I know the whole ending thing is supposed to be like his craziness. It didn't really happen, but like, what about the actual performance itself? I don't know. I'm not going to go over that too much. Shutter Island was a movie I loved until like I found out like the twist. I wanted it all to be true. So Shutter Island's another movie that like was so close to me loving it, but I just can't.
I feel like that ending's such a cop out.
Yeah, it bothered me a lot.
It was all, I mean, not that this was Shutter Island, but it was all a dream, or It was all, it's just a boy staring into a snow globe the whole time.
Yeah. I'll say Scorsese basically took 2 risks in his career. One was New York, New York, which bombed.
Bombed, yeah.
And the other was The Last Temptation of Christ, because it's quite the controversial thing. So there's 2 risks you took. Bravo, Marty.
But he was only able to do that because he did have a bunch of hits in a row.
Right.
So,
I mean, The Last Temptation of Christ came out in '88, and he was, already quite big by then.
I can afford to have some flops in there.
Yeah. What is Killers of the Flower Moon? His upcoming movie is not going to get a theatrical release, by the way. It's supposed to be on Apple TV. So I don't know if that's him changing his mind or if that's just him being forced to get with the times or what. DiCaprio and De Niro are both in it.
I still haven't seen The Irishman.
I will never bother. Like, it's a movie where you feel like you've already seen it, right? Like, you saw Goodfellas, you saw, like, I feel like I've already seen The Irishman. I don't need to invest, like, the 3.5 hours or whatever into it. I get it. It's sort of, like, I get why people would like it. It's kind of like one last hurrah for, like, those actors and that director, like, doing that stuff. It's like, okay, one more time, this gang is going to do, like, a gangster movie. Okay, but, yeah, I'm not interested, but
it's kind of like, do you really want to see these actors that you love as, like, weak old men? I mean, do you really want to see them like that? I mean,
well, it's also full of scenes where they're like digitally change their face when they're young, right? Aren't there a bunch of flashbacks where they're young? I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of flashbacks where they're young. I'm pretty sure.
I bet that looks great. So they're just doing like a face swap or something, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's the stuff they they did in a couple of the Star Wars ones and stuff.
I don't know. It's hard to say a Taxi Driver was
I don't
really
know. I think
risk.
Taxi Driver was just so of its time. I mean,
it's hard for me to even think about that, considering the reputation it's gained over the years.
Yeah.
I
mean, I know it was fairly dark, but I mean, it's not like there weren't dark movies in the 70s.
I guess Jodie Foster's a underage stripper or a prostitute. I don't know. Maybe that's.
I guess.
Yeah, I don't know.
No, I can't think of it really as a risky movie. I feel like it was exactly what everybody was waiting for him. It's a great movie. I like it. I like it a lot. So anyway, this is not me piling on him. As I said, I like a lot of his movies. But right, like, no matter how successful you are as a director, I don't care who you are, you don't really like like you said, who are you to like decide what is this or that, or If
right, it's like I get to decide what's art.
Film is subjective is the whole point, right?
Exactly. I mean, art is in general. Like, I mean, you could, I heard the other day someone sold an invisible sculpture, and they had a certificate of authenticity. So it's just nothing, but they've got a certificate. It's like, that's art, Yeah. It's nothing. It's literally nothing, but it's art,
I know. So, I mean, he easily could have just said, this is not good art, but he has to take it up another notch and be like, it's not art at all. Whatever.
Yeah. I guess back to this, we can get back to Layer Cake, the scene where the snipers, where his sniper gets killed is pretty funny because they're setting up the shot, and he has the meat place set up with Dragon.
I hate Casino and I love Departed, so we're all over the place here, Jacob. I love Departed and I despise Casino.
I don't like Casino either.
And I have no interest in Irishman. And I think Goodfellas is quite good, maybe a little overrated, but definitely very good. Definitely very good. And that's the number one movie for hitting us over the head with the music, probably. But Yeah, it is kind of funny, the scene, because like how casual like the guy he hires is about it. Like he's just like, oh yeah, we'll kill this guy, no
Yeah.
problem, be so easy. Okay, you just tell me where to go, and then like he's immediately shot. It's like, you don't really know who
Yeah.
you're dealing with. This guy is prepared and he's ready for whatever you're trying to throw at him.
He's like learning French. Like he's like has these big headphones on. He's like learning French. He doesn't
Yeah,
even
when
like
that
introduce
scene
himself.
started, I didn't even
Yeah.
understand what was going on. I was like,
Yeah,
who is
I
this
didn't
guy and what is happening? Is he just sharing a cab with somebody? And then, yeah.
I thought the same thing. Yeah.
Like this guy's not even focused. He's busy learning French because he's like, I've got an exam coming up or something like that.
Yeah. Well, Jacob agrees with you on Joker.
I hate Joker. And I'll just quickly say, my hatred for Joker, I mean, the obvious stuff, who I am. I'm going to be like, that's not Joker, blah, 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 comic book nerd. Take all that away, and I just hate it. I feel like it's a joyless, lifeless, just shitty movie. Like, there's just nothing to be gotten out of. Like, nothing. Like, I keep thinking that maybe I could watch it again, but like, no, I just can't. It just saps the life out of me. I don't think I've ever felt that way in a theater. Like, I've seen bad movies in the theater. I've seen some terrible movies, but I don't think I've ever felt like so hopeless watching a movie in the theater as I did watching Joker. I was like, oh my God, when will this stop? Like, yeah, anyway. So that's unrelated to my fist shaking, stuff about, comic bullshit. That's just the movie itself, what is on screen, like how much it bothered me. But anyway.
I didn't hate it, but it was pretty funny how much you hated it and for it to be so successful. I thought that was pretty funny.
I find it soul crushing, that movie. Like the last time I felt anything like that, it was like more than 10 years ago. I had an interview for a job at the casino. Mm-hmm. And I was sitting there, and it wasn't just me. I was with two other guys. And they were blabbing about everything you're supposed to be doing for it. And I just remember at some point during it when they're talking about like what you're supposed to do on the floor and how, since it's a casino, you're supposed to project this sort of attitude of fun and all. And like I just stopped hearing what he was saying, and I started to like die, and I had a panic attack. And we were supposed to do like some sort of like written test, and I just left. Like, that's weird, isn't it? I didn't feel that feeling again until I watched Joker. So
wow.
I don't know. But I didn't leave Joker. I stayed to the end because I felt like I had to. But I just felt part of me dying watching that movie. Oh, it's all gone. My special treat. No French on this can.
Yeah, Joker was just like, it was just retreading old stuff and then putting that character in there. And I heard somewhere that I think the original intention of that was he was going to go and kill Bruce Wayne's parents and Bruce Wayne. Wasn't that like one of the original ideas?
Where he just kills all of them himself?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I thought I heard that recently. I could be wrong.
I don't know. But I agree with that, because one of the other things that annoys me about Joker is the way, like, I hate listening to Glass or whatever his name, or Todd Phillips talk about it, because he seems to act like he's made not only this great, really smart thing, but he also feels like he's given this great middle finger to cancel culture and all this stuff. I'm like, shut the fuck up, dude. The fact is, you kept making the same movie over and over again. He's like, oh, you can't do comedy anymore. It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe just don't make The Hangover over and over again and try from there. But anyway, so.
Oh, was that him? The Hangover guy?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. What if they made another movie in that world that had a Batman and maybe another villain? Would you
in the Joker world?
Yeah, would you be open to that or no?
No, God, no. I mean, he's established a horrible world.
I mean, it's something's coming out of it. They're not going to let that sit on the shelf. As successful as it was, it won all the awards and stuff.
I don't know. I feel like if you're on the side of the movie and you think it's good, wouldn't you feel like it had like the right ending and it shouldn't go any further than that? Like, don't you feel like if you thought it was a good Joker movie, it would kind of undermine that movie to have a sequel where he really like starts doing Joker stuff? Like, I thought the whole point was like what they were trying to do is like really show the psychological side, blah 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 blah, and not get into the colorful, costumed criminal career.
I mean, was it definitive that it was not real, that it was in his head? I mean, is that definitive, or I thought it was open ended? Like,
No, it's supposed to be open ended, which I'm fine with that. I get it. Like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe this happened, maybe it didn't. At a
Mhm.
certain point, because they already do the unreliable narrator thing with him, right? He has that whole
Right.
thing where he's imagining having the relationship with a woman, and you see
Mhm.
none of that's true. But I don't know. It's a pretty shit-tacular world if you want to put other superheroes in it. Because in this world, Thomas Wayne, who was the great example for Bruce Wayne, is just an asshole. He's an elitist snob piece of shit. And Alfred is a fucking rude thug. Like, Alfred is the complete opposite of that. I've seen Alfred stare down like supervillains that are like talking about melting his fingers off with acid, and he was never rude. But this guy's like, take a fucking walk. I'm Alfred. Get away from the
Yeah.
gate. These are the Waynes, and they're better than everybody. So, the whole thing just makes me sick. This idea of like the Waynes actually being assholes. But again, that's the magic of Phillips. He's turned everything around. It's like, what if the Waynes were bad? Like, whoa, that's amazing. And I mean, I get it. It fits with a certain thing because there's been a lot of backlash against Batman in recent years as part of the. I mean, I hate the rich too, but I mean, Batman's not real. Batman's fake rich in a fake world. So I don't think some people are like, well, I don't know about like cheering on like a billionaire that like beats up the poor people that he thinks are criminals. I'm like, he's not real. It's not in the real world. Do you understand that?
Yeah, he's got a lot going against him.
If that Batman existed in our world, he wouldn't be here like beating the shit out of like super poor people. That's not what Batman would do in our world. It's pretty clear he's a good guy. I don't know how that's hard for people. Oh yeah, because these people don't actually read the comic. That's why they just But everybody feels really clever saying that. It's like, if Bruce Wayne's so good, why doesn't he just solve the world's problems with his money? I'm like, again, if you knew the actual world, which is not our world, you would see how that would not work. How that's brought up many, many times about how like his money can do things, but in that crazy DC world with all the things that are in it, money only goes so far. But again, these people, they don't actually read any of that. They just make up their own stuff. So anyway, I feel we're getting off topic too much. I mean, I know this movie's not particularly deep or anything, but I don't know. I'm too tired to go into stuff like that. I don't have the energy. But yeah, I hate Joker, and I hate people that say that like it's bad or infantile for people to like Batman, because all we're doing is cheering on like a 1%er who thinks he's better than everyone, which is just not the case. But anyway, I get it. People like to feel clever and shit on what's popular. But I was also confused at the ending. Like, I get finally when he pulled. Like, I didn't realize he hadn't already paid. Because okay, so the thing is that Eddie more or less intimidates Daniel Craig into changing who he was going to sell the pills to in the first place. Right? He says like, "I'd rather you sell them to me." He's like, "I'll be really unhappy if you do." He's like, "Well, my buyers will be unhappy." And he's just like, "It'd be worse if I'm unhappy." So he's like, "Fine." He's like,
yeah,
they were going to pay. He's like, what were they going to pay you? He's like, $2 million. So if I say $3 million, we're good, right? He's like, okay, fine, we're good. $3 million, it's a deal. And then at the end, of course, is the whole thing is where they're going to, do the buy. Like the first time, or not the first time, but at first I didn't understand that he hadn't already paid him. So I was like, what does this mean? What his men are pulling guns on him? I'm like, why? They have the pills. I only realized later, it's like when during the voiceover, it's like, did I really think he was going to pay me? I'm like, oh shit, of course. Because I was like, why are they pulling guns on him? Isn't the deal done? But he hadn't paid, and he wasn't going to pay. But the whole point was, Daniel Craig foresaw this and had the other guys get ready to hit them.
Right.
And as part of the movie's style, we don't actually see that. The movie's not full of like big action sequences. So what could have been a big action sequence for the movie, the robbery, they just show the aftermath.
Yeah, we kind of skipped over a part where
It's Trevor and Shanks, by the way. They're kind of the rough guys that he gets, Trevor and Shanks.
We skipped over the part where they make it look like the police took the drugs. So
I was
Dragon
also
is
confused
watching.
by that. That's also a confusing thing the first time you're watching it.
Yeah, it is.
Because I was like, are all of those people like fake, or is it just some of them?
And it's got to be just like two of them.
Yeah. So how did they do that so well? So they called in the real cops, but they got two of them to be like undercover as pretend cops, and they were the ones that managed to get away with the pills. Because there is a pretty funny part where like the cop, like the captain or whatever, is yelling at his men for like losing the evidence or whatever.
Right.
I love the part where he's just like, "Shut up, you soppy fucking cunt." He called him like a soppy cunt, which is great.
Oh yeah, I use that one all the time.
But yeah, like then I went and read like a thing on, I read the part on Wikipedia here that says the police arrive. The criminals barely escape the raid, and Dragon watches from afar as the pills are confiscated. However, it turns out that XXXX, that's our guy, arranged for the raid with Cody and Tiptoes posing as officers to secure the pills. So yeah, it's like, oh, it's just those two. That makes sense. So they somehow, got in and got out under the cops' noses, which is pretty funny.
It's like the cops go in and they're chasing, the main character and the nephew,
Gaza and a few other people, yeah.
And then I think that's when they go and steal the drugs when they're busy chasing them. So they go steal the drugs and leave. I think so. It is kind of an odd plot point, but I guess just suspension of disbelief that they could just show up and they've got riot gear or whatever they're wearing and they look exactly like the legit cops. So I don't know. Yeah.
Pretty risky, but they get away with it. But you got to give as much as Daniel Craig's character makes a point about being professional, and a big part of it is not getting involved in the violence. It's an interesting contrast, sort of the Dragon, whose whole point of his job is the violence, but he's very professional. Because think about it, he's dealt with him a couple times, and the first time he's like, well, when he's talking to him, he's just like, well, do you know where I live? And he says no, and he's like, fuck off then. And he hangs up on him. Of course, he tracks him down again, calls him again, says like he didn't appreciate being told that, but still he's not going to kill him or anything if he doesn't have to. He still just wants the same thing, give me the merchandise and give me the Duke, and then when they arrange for the meeting, he of course Craig double crosses him by, although not without good reason, because he's worried about getting killed himself, right, by hiring the guy to take him out. He takes him out, and again, he does shoot at him, but only to, like, as warning shots to show, like, you are out of time.
Right.
And in the end, when he delivers, the head of the Duke, because the whole point is the ruse was to show, well, we lost the product, I can't give it to him. Says, we're good. He walks away. You got to give it to Dragon. He never took it personally that this guy tried to have him killed, even though he failed. Mm-hmm. So Dragon's quite emotionally detached and professional himself, even though his job is not any of this middle management, economics bullshit. It is killing people. But he's removed sort of his ego from the equation, right? Because even though this guy did try to have him killed, he doesn't hold it against him or try to kill him himself, where he easily could have. And I think if he did, it's not like his boss would have cared. I don't think the head Serbian would have been like, oh, you shouldn't have killed him. Like, he wouldn't have cared. I don't think.
Yeah, the Serbians definitely don't fuck around. It was like, I want you to get the pills and to kill whoever took the pills. And, even though, he wasn't the guy that took the pills, you got the pills now, or you had the pills at one time. So, you find them.
Right. I mean, this is 2004. So, I mean, these would have been guys that were soldiers probably in the 90s when, during the Bosnian Serbian conflict, which was full of war crimes. So you get these guys were guys that committed all sorts of war crimes, and now they can't even go back to their country because of it. Actually, in an interesting coincidence, one of those guys who's been tried at The Hague just got his appeal or whatever directed because he was being charged with genocide.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Let's see what that guy's name was. Now I can't find it, but it literally just happened. He was one of those guys, and that's its own thing too. Because even though the world regards him as this horrible war criminal, there's still people from his own country that see him as a hero. They're like, he just did what he had to do to protect us. It's it's pretty clear he went a little further than that when you look at the evidence and the massacres that he incited. But anyway. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I love the Joker character. He's a great character, but the whole point is he's kind of a fantasy character. He's not really a good vehicle for exploring mental illness. The whole point of the Joker is like he's on a mental illness that's never really been seen in real life. Like, so trying to like make that into something that we can understand in the real world, I think is wrong. Because I mean, the whole point of the Joker is like, and also it makes sense for a character that's existed so long and been written by so many writers that uses all the time. It's like he's always reinventing himself. Sometimes his identity is kind of like this, but sometimes it's like this, and it's like that's that's what makes his illness or whatever special. Is that like he's never kind of the same way for too long. Like he keeps some of his core elements about like being homicidal and sadistic and stuff, but all sorts of other stuff changes. And I mean the whole point is there's not anybody in real life ever that's been like the Joker. I mean, there have been horrible killers in real life, but they weren't like the Joker. Yeah, so I don't think it's really smart or wise to make a movie about the Joker and try to use it as some sort of depiction or exploration of what mental illness is. Because the whole point is he's a comic book villain. His mental illness is a crazy, weird mental illness that, we don't have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, totally.
I wouldn't say it's quite that bad, but I think you guys have a little
the same
stronger
idea,
opinions than I
though.
do.
It's taking a character who the whole point was they didn't really have an origin. We didn't know what happened, and then trying to explain everything. Like,
we're talking a lot about Joker tonight, but I mean, at the end of the day, I think Joaquin Phoenix did do a good job playing the character.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with Joaquin Phoenix's performance for what was written. He performed what was written quite well. There's no way I could accept it as any version of the Joker. This idiot called Arthur Fleck. Oh my god.
Well, it's like Venom. They've got another Venom movie coming out without Spider-Man. It's weird.
Yeah. I mean, there's just certain things I can't get past, and I mean that's all it is. Like, if there's something I can't get past, then it doesn't matter how many other things they do right. You could write the world's best Batman movie that's ever been written and cast Ben Affleck in the role, and I can't get past it. I can't get past that Ben Affleck is playing Batman Bruce Wayne. I can't see it. I hate it. I don't like it. Even if it's really well written or, follows some comic I like perfectly, it's still fucking him. I can't get past it.
You don't like him, or you don't like him in that role?
Him in that role. I don't mind Ben Affleck. He's fine in movies. I just think he's so wrong for the character. But anyway, and that's kind of thing with Venom. Like the Venom, the effects look pretty good. I don't even think what's his name? Is that Tom Hardy?
Tom Hardy, yeah.
I don't think Tom Hardy's that bad of a choice for Eddie Brock, but I can't get past the idea of a Venom that his origin has nothing to do with Spider-Man. Like I can't get past that. The Venom doesn't run around with a big spider on his chest. Like I can't get past that. So it's unfortunate because I do know they do some things kind of okay or maybe even right. It's like, oh, that's a good effect, or that's a good line, or that's a good action sequence, or that moves the way Venom moves. Like I know they get some of that stuff right, but at the end of the day, if Spider-Man is not part of it, it doesn't make sense to me and I can't get past it. So I don't try to be like that with too many things. You have to be flexible when you're doing adaptations of stuff. I'm just saying. As I said, I care about comic accuracy to a certain extent. It depends. Like I said, it all depends. But no, I mean, some things to me are kind of written in stone. And one is that Venom, the symbiote, was on Peter Parker before it ever got near anybody else.
Right.
I mean, it's partially why Venom has the powers that he has. Venom shoots webs. It's only because it's imitating Spider-Man's powers. Right. But anyway, I won't go down there. But I mean, I kind of thought the Venom movie was fine, but it just feels like a waste. It feels like a waste to me.
I mean, if anything, it's loads better than the Raimi Spider-Man 3 Venom.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Spider-Man 3 is just awful on every level. And plus that Venom, I mean, even if we pretend it's not who it was, like when it might look like Venom, every 5 seconds they were taking it off, and showing his face. It's just like, I've still never seen Upgrade, even though I've heard it's pretty cool. I don't know. Upgrade reminds me, what was that movie? I'm sure they're quite different, but I put them together in my head because I haven't seen them. Because like, they're both movies that people said were really good and cool, and I just never bothered. One was Upgrade, and the one before that was like, it was the one. It had somebody's like name in the title, and it was like first person the entire movie. What's that movie? Like Henry? Something Henry?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
So
forgot
those
about that.
they might be very different movies. Or is it Hardcore Henry?
Yeah, I think so.
They might be very different movies, but I haven't seen them, so I kind of put them together in how I imagine them, even though I'm sure they're very different. I don't know. I'll eventually get around to both. I don't know.
I thought Upgrade was pretty good.
Yeah, like I said, I've heard a lot of good things. I've heard a lot of people say that. So I mean, I'll get around to it, I'm sure. At some point. I lost my spot.
I had to tell you, man, I didn't even know that was Tom Hardy in the movie. He looks so different. You know, that guy.
I mean, several characters. Ben Whishaw, too. Again, with Ben Whishaw, he's so young, I kind of get it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Hardy, yeah, it doesn't even sound like him, really. I mean, I know we've gotten kind of used to him speaking with like kind of an American accent, but you know, but I've heard him speak, you know, with an English accent too. So it's not all that. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I guess this is the movie that sort of proved that Daniel Craig can be kind of what's the word? Marketable, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume.
This is why he was cast as James Bond, because
I have to figure this is the main reason he was cast as James Bond. I mean, and he had some fairly stiff competition with maybe some more recognizable names at the time. Now, I can't say 100% they did the right thing, but as I said, I mostly am fine with him in the role. I'm like you. It's my problem with those movies is not him. It's just how a lot of the you know, like you said, the direction they kind of took it in.
Mm-hmm.
Or what it is, but I don't know. I just want to get this last Bond out of the way so we can. I'm excited to see somebody new in the role.
I want it to be a female of color.
Yeah, I don't see why that is necessary. I'm all for representation. I just don't understand shoving it into something like just make a new. Let's have a female of color super spy then. Fine. Absolutely, 100%. But why would it be James Bond?
Well, it's like when they redid.
He's probably a little older than mid-20s. He's probably maybe even mid-30s. That's another thing. Eddie Brock is noticeably older than Peter Parker. Sometimes it could be like as much as 10 years. If you think that's too much, it's at least 5. Like Eddie Brock is definitely older than Peter Parker, which was another thing that one of the million things they got wrong with 3. Whereas 3, they kind of wanted to make it look like, oh, I know what they were going for. They're like, instead of like a big, asshole jerk getting the symbiote, we'll make a guy who's really similar to Peter getting the symbiote. Like maybe they thought that was the way to go, but no, wrong. Yeah, wrong. It's me saying wrong. But no, I would say he was definitely supposed to be older than mid-20s. Brock is definitely several years older than Peter Parker. And Peter Parker was already in his 20s when he encountered Venom. I know with the way they do movies and shows and stuff, like that show, The Spectacular Spider-Man, it's like everything that ever happened in his entire career happened while he was still in high school. Like they love that. Like, no. So yeah, but as far as the actual timeline goes, no. Peter was at least in his 20s and at least part-time in college when the Venom stuff was going on.
You think they'll make another movie with Tom Holland in it?
Oh, yeah, that's already happening.
I mean, another Venom movie with Tom Holland.
Oh, I don't know. How would they make that work?
I think they've been in talks.
Well, I mean, I've heard that, yeah, I've even heard that this new Venom movie might have some sort of Tom Holland reference towards the end or something. I don't know if any of that's true. I mean, but to me, it's already too late.
Yeah.
Like, unless you're going to do some sort of cosmic retcon, which I get it. it's comics. That's possible. Retcons happen all the time. I can't say that. I can't say comics are perfect because they never go back and change anything. Like, fuck no. They're like the blueprint for going back and fucking with stuff. So I'm just saying it would have to be kind of clumsy and weird for them to. I don't know exactly how they're going to do it.
I mean, Venom's not exactly a villain in these newer movies.
Right.
And Venom is a villain. Has to be.
Right. I mean, he starts out as a villain, and even when he tries to be good, he's, he fucks it up. Like, he's, at the best, he's like a more psychotic and unhinged Punisher, and the Punisher's already psychotic and unhinged. And if you want to talk about another thing that, like, society can't comprehend, like, this is the funny thing. Like, why do I always have to, like, explain these supposedly juvenile and simple things to society at large? Why do I have to explain to people that are so smart that they would never read a comic book that they don't understand the Punisher? Like, all these assholes that go over to Iraq and put, like, the Punisher symbol on them and go, yeah, I'm going to mow everybody down. Like, or people that say, what's Marvel doing, like, using this guy? Like, he's a murderer and a psychopath. I'm like, that's how they present him. They never say he's heroic. They've got fucking... There's even an in-comic example of the Punisher yelling at a bunch of cops and telling them why they should not do what he does or idolize him in any way. Like, that's in universe. But anyway, so I don't know. I guess that's one of the obviously I'm happy about about stuff I grew up liking becoming mainstream and getting big movies out of it. But on the other hand, it's kind of sad seeing, like, stupid people misunderstanding it. Again, I'm not saying it's that great or deep. It all came from a pretty silly place. Most of it's from the Silver Age, which was ridiculous stuff written for children. And, but it is kind of amazing to me seeing, like, just people in some obvious ways, but in some baffling ways, like, totally misunderstand characters or things that are going on here. Stuff that I've just read some crazy stuff online and things. Yeah, one is Marvel never said that the Punisher was a hero.
He was a vigilante.
Yeah. I mean, there's plenty of vigilantes in Marvel, but a lot of them are a more light touch vigilante, right? Kind of like a Batman. It's like, yeah, they're definitely breaking all kinds of laws, but, they're not brutal and they're not killing people. And as I've said many times, like, it's just about understanding the difference between reality and fiction. I love Rorschach. Rorschach is one of my favorite characters. But if somebody who was like Rorschach existed in real life here, I'd be like, arrest this motherfucker. I wouldn't be cheering him on. So some of it is, I don't know. To me, it's very common sense in separating reality from fiction. But I guess we got to the point where people can't even do that. That'd be kind of like saying, like, don't have your kid dress up as Dracula for Halloween because he's a murderer. Like, who exactly did Dracula kill? Oh yeah, nobody, because he doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, some of my favorite characters in action stuff are female. Yeah, but just a gender swap, as we said, it's sort of insulting, really. And that's how it works with everything. And I'm not going to get into it, but, like, race swapping and stuff like too. Like, I don't know.
I mean, it's like, what if they cast a white dude as Blade? I mean, people wouldn't be happy with that,
Yeah.
Or,
I mean, some of these characters have just become such institutions that, like, I think people are losing sight of what they are and what the plot is. Because, like, like when people talk about, say, like a Black Batman or something, there's some stories now with the Black Batman, and they'll say something like, now it's good now that, black kids or whatever can read and see, look, there can be a Black Batman. I was like, that was never really the issue, I don't think. I mean, if Batman is just one character, then he's Bruce Wayne. But if you're just saying that a black person or a person of any race or whatever like that, or any genre, then Batman is not really a character. Batman is simply a title. And of course, anybody can be any title, So, I don't know. To me, you should just make new characters. Like, I'm super happy about the diversity in comics. I'm really happy. All those comic gator assholes furiously pounding on their keyboards about how woke and ruined and pussified comics are now because of that. Like, they're idiots. I totally disagree with them completely. But yeah, I just don't think I don't think you legitimize or say, here, this is how you're going to give visibility to any sort of group, is take an established character and just change him. I can't get behind that. Yeah, I mean, it can depend. I think that Michael Clark Duncan's Kingpin is pretty good, and I think at the end of the day, being white or black or whatever is not that fundamental to Kingpin's character. But there are certain characters where it would change them. If Peter Parker was a black kid, it would change him. And now, don't worry, there is a black Spider-Man, because suddenly it is a legacy character, and I don't like how Miles is shoved down my throat, but I don't care that much.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to flip out about it. But it just seems to me like, are we just going to do a do-over where every single popular white character is either changed completely, or they just make a new one of another race?
Well, I mean, at least with Miles, I mean, Miles is not Peter Parker, so he's not really the real Spider-Man. Yeah. So, you know, that's fine.
Right. He's another Spider-Man, which I do think makes Spider-Man a little less special, but they do that kind of thing. I don't know. I've gotten used to some characters being legacy characters and other characters just aren't. Like, some characters are such legacy characters, it's like, yeah, there's several of them, whatever, but I don't know. I think of really big ones like Spider-Man and Batman is like, no, that's who they are. Like, Bruce Wayne is Batman. But anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just think people get a little I just think people get a little lost in that, because they'll take it like, you're saying like a character of this race can't be that. I'm just saying they can't be a person who already exists. I'm not saying they can't be a hero or they can't be awesome, but I don't know. I don't want to be anybody who says you can't do, like, whatever people do is fine. Because at the end of the day, no matter how disappointed or whatever I am about that kind of stuff, I'm never going to freak out that much. As much as I wear my heart on my sleeve and I care about comics and stuff like that, I don't know, I'm not mentally disturbed like some people that like feel the need to write into Marvel or DC and tell them how horrible they are and they'll never buy another other comics, or they, you know, go on the internet and say a bunch of shit, or they go on Twitter and harass the creators. Even if I'm super mad, which I've never been, I can't imagine doing that.
Right.
You know, I don't know, if like Jeff Johns or somebody said, okay, I don't know, it's hard for me to take a character that I care so much about in DC, but we'll say some Batman character. I don't know. And if Jeff Johns like messed with some DC character in a way I didn't like, I'd be like, I wish he didn't do that. But I wouldn't be like, hate mail Jeff Johns, but, you know, it's not worth it.
Yeah. I don't really get the controversy. Like, I don't understand why it's controversial. But it is what it is.
I mean, at least the good news about the comics is that they don't actually change anybody. They'll add people, but they don't change them. So if they really want to make a show where there's a black Batwoman or whatever, fine. To me, it doesn't really register, because Batwoman is still who she is in the comics, and that's that. If they want the TV show version of Batwoman to be black, fine. I don't care. It's not like I care that much about Batwoman anyway, but I just mean, yeah. So, and this doesn't even have to be race. They can miscast a character. It has nothing to do with race. Like, they could be the same race as the normal character, and I just think it's not a good casting decision. But at least I can calm down and then look at the character as drawn in the comic and be like, well, there they are. They're okay. You know, they're not influenced by whatever the TV or movie version is doing. They're still drawing them the way they draw them, you know, so. Well, Jacob, as far as Death goes, I think the people that are freaking out about that never read the comic, because the whole point of Death is that she's not a human, and people see her basically in different ways. So if you might see her as a black person, depending on who you are. Another person might see Death as an Asian person, etc. So it really doesn't matter at all to me.
It's like Santa Claus. If you're black, you've got a black Santa Claus.
Or whatever, right? But I mean, yeah, like, it's one thing, and maybe I am being silly if you do quibble about race of various characters, but I will not quibble about the race of a character that actually does not have race. Death is not a human being. Death can just take the form of a human being. So them casting a black Death, fine, because to me that fits the character fine, because absolutely plenty of the people on the show could see her that way. Like you could cast multiple people as Death if you wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and it'd be the same with the other ones, Delirium and Dream, and all those. The whole point, they are not human. They can appear as humans, but they could also change their appearance at any time. So to say just because for a long time it was drawn this way, that means it has to look that way. Well, no, not at all. So. Oh yeah, I know.
And
That's
some of
always the
those,
sadness. Like, it's always so sad finding stuff like racism embedded in something that you thought was more pure. Like, I'm not like I'll take a weird example, not too weird, but like, a big rock band in the world is a rock band Journey, right? They were like one of the biggest bands in the '80s. Journey, Don't Stop Believing, and all this other shit, and they're huge. And they had Steve Perry, the voice. He was the guy, but Steve Perry left the band. And so they replaced him. They replaced him with a guy who was Filipino. And he was an amazing singer. He can do it all. And there was actually I don't know if it was a big backlash, but there was a backlash from various Journey fans who thought there was something obscene and terrible about a non-white, non-American as a member of Journey. Like, I can't even begin to understand that kind of mental gymnastics. But you think, okay, I'm a fan of this band. I love their music. I have all their albums. They're great. Oh, it's too bad one of their members left, but it happens. They had to replace. I can understand not liking the replacement as much. That happens in everything.
sure.
But to say like you just ruined Journey because now it's not all white, like I don't get it just blows my mind that you're like a big fan of Journey and you're listening to their music, and somehow that ties together like whiteness for you. Like that is fucked up. So it's always disappointing when that kind of stuff gets revealed. It's like, I can't like Journey anymore. They got an Asian singer. Fuck off.
Yeah, I mean, who cares? I don't know.
I mean, are these Journey fans like also people? Are they upset if they find out? Hey, did you know that there are Journey fans in other countries? They like. Are you mad that like Japanese people like Journey? Or are you gonna say this is whites only music? Like it's crazy. So.
He's actually from the Philippines too, so
yeah. Oh yeah, because it wasn't just that he was Asian; it was also he was like not American or whatever, because they were an American band. I mean, Journey, they put out a statement. They're like, we're an international band and we're for everybody, and fuck you. They didn't say that, but I mean, obviously, and I mean that would be with any band. Like the idea that like a band replacing a member with somebody of like a different race or nationality, and that somehow being like a big deal to the point that like fans are upset about it, like is insane. Like if you don't think the guy sings as well, or you don't think the guy plays the guitar as well, that's one thing. But you're just like, this was an all-white band and you ruined it. Like, fuck. You really have to take a look at yourself in the mirror.
Wait till they find out Darius Rucker is black.
Yeah, I bet that blew a lot of people's minds back in the day.
Or the lead singer of
Hootie and the Blowfish. This very white-sounding 90s rock band.
Yeah. I always thought he was white. I think I probably saw a music video or something finally, but I wasn't into that music at all at the time.
They're pretty bland.
I do like some of that.
Even funnier in a way, if you want to talk about playing people's expectation, he moved on to have a solo career as a country artist.
Yep.
People are like, black country artist? Good, does not compute with my narrow worldview. But,
I mean, that's happened plenty of times before.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Or Seven Dust, the guy from Seven Dust.
Yeah, he's the lead singer. He's a black guy. It's sort of like a new metal band.
He may have actually left that band. I don't know. I think he may be in another band. Or
I lost track of them ages ago.
Oh man.
Yeah, that song Denial, which is good. But
there's another metal band like from the 90s that's pretty good. And lead singer, the whole band may be black for all I know, but I know at least the lead singer is black.
Well, Ice-T was a rapper, but he also had a metal band on the side, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's a big metal fan.
Is it In Living Color? That may be the band I'm thinking of.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, look them up. They got some good stuff.
I was thinking about Sly and the Family Stone the other day because they're like notable as like maybe not the first, but the first like notable like integrated band. Like they started getting hits in the mid '60s, and they had white and black members, which was a big deal at the time. There was still segregation in parts of this U.S.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I went many years not knowing that one of the Doobie Brothers was black. I had no fucking clue. Yeah, their bass player. Which reminds me of a Cartman joke where he tells Token to go bring the bass over from his house. It's like, bass at my house? What are you talking about? It's like, Token, you're black. You can play bass, okay? And then all of a sudden he just effortlessly starts playing. It's like, oh, goddamn. That's when they make a Christian band, Christian rock hard. It's a good one.
Charlie Pride. I was trying to think of the black country music singer. He was
don't know.
Popular.
Not my radar, but I believe you.
Popular like in the 70s, 60s, 70s, I think. So
I'm sure.
It's not a new concept.
No.
I know when he comes on, I turn my damn radio off. I don't want that shit.
But yeah, I mean, we know now after like the last decade. I think this decade really proved that like every single fandom has like a really ugly, toxic element to it, which is sad. Even the most harmless ones. Yeah. Ones where it's like, there's no way. Like, everybody in this is happy and united, right? Like, nope. I mean, I guess the big warning shot was like just before, like the big one, I think, of course, was just before Force Awakens came out. And there was actually a bunch of people that were mad. There was a black stormtrooper. Stormtrooper. And at the time, we didn't know if Finn was going to be a major character or anything. He was a major character. All we knew was there was a stormtrooper. He took off his helmet and he was black, and a bunch of people's heads exploded.
I don't even know if it was. I don't even know if it was a bunch of people. I think just like whoever had the problem, like screamed the loudest.
Well, that's what it is too, right? Like maybe it isn't that many people, but they make it seem like it is because they set the internet on fire with their nonsense and their bitching. It's really sad. It is like people being upset about diversity in Star Wars. I'm like, it's Star Wars. It's a space fantasy with aliens and shit. And yet you think like that's all. It's just a bunch of white people. I mean, I realize that's kind of what the very first movie was that, but it had like a big British cast. That's all.
James Earl Jones. I mean.
Yeah, but he wasn't on screen, I guess.
Right.
But again, what did these fans think at the time? Well, that was George Lucas's plan, like to not put him on. He was keeping it pure. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? But So yeah, it just boggles my mind when stuff like that comes up. The idea that somebody can't like it's again has nothing to do. If you don't like the new movies, I get it. Lots of people don't like the new movies. I certainly didn't like the prequels for the most part. I understand what it's like to have a franchise you like do stuff you don't like. Everybody knows that. But I don't understand the headspace of being upset that like racial diversity has become part of it. Again, I don't like seeing if characters are replaced, but if it's just added, here's a new character and they're from this country or they're this race or whatever. Good.
Right. Who cares? It's the fucking future.
I'm only reasonable by comparison. I know I'm not reasonable. I'm just reasonable by comparison because there's fucking lunatics out there. I know I'm not very reasonable. I mean, it's not just comics either. I mean, I have very specific ideas about certain things, like vampires. Like, I hate 90% of vampire movies because to me, there's a specific way to get vampires right. And I feel like most movies don't do it. So, so I have specific ideas about certain things. And I get it. It's a fictional thing. A vampire's made up. But I just have what I think defines them or does them best. And so that's what I go by. So I'm probably not reasonable when it comes to a lot of stuff, but I'm just more reasonable by a lot of these. Yeah, see, I would say that Twilight is a poor representation of vampires. I don't think that's really a controversial statement, though.
If vampires are walking in the fucking sun, we got a problem.
What if they're all sparkly? Which is what they do in the sun in Twilight. They sparkle. It's pretty interesting the way that what's her name? I can't even remember her name, but that author like took everything she could to like totally neuter vampires. I would just wish she was honest. Like, she was a bored Mormon housewife that injected a bunch of her Mormon nonsense into vampire fiction, which is fine. That's not illegal. You're perfectly allowed to do that. But to just deny it and say, no, it's got nothing to do with that. It's just bullshit. Like all this stuff about like how this teenage girl meets this boy, oh, and they're so horny for each other, but they can't have sex. And why is that? Oh, because he'll get too excited and kill her. But suddenly, once they get married, okay, they can have other stuff. And when they get married, they immediately have a kid. It's like you're not projecting your faith and beliefs into this at all. Again, she's 100% allowed to do that. I just don't like her denying it. Like, why deny it? Say, yeah, I decided to put Mormon skew into vampires because why not? It's shitty, but people like it. Even funnier than the sex part is probably the politics part. Like the whole thing in later books or the movies is like the idea is okay. It's like the Cullens, whatever they're called. They're really nice vampires. They live in America and they're really nice and they're like vegan vampires, right? They don't kill people. They drink blood some other way, right? But the idea is there's like this group or cabal of vampires. They're based in like Europe, possibly Italy, and they have all these rules that are like wrong and bad and terrible. And if you look at them, they look a lot like the Catholic Church. But no, it's just a coincidence. She's not saying she has problems with the Catholic Church. No,
Yeah, it's all metaphors for Mormons, right?
Isn't that it's all again. It's all through her Mormon, lens, and that is again. She's 100% freedom of expression. Fine. I'm just saying, like, but her to just like say, "Oh no, not at all," like fuck off. Like, you've already done it. You're like a zillionaire. You're like, I'm not a published author, and you're like a best-selling author. You win.
Yeah, what was it? Was it 50 Shades of Grey that started off as fan fiction?
Yeah, 50 Shades of Grey was Twilight fan fiction.
Yeah.
that one's even sadder because at least Twilight was, while not very original, was original. It was like, okay, I'll write a love story about a boy and a girl, and he's a vampire. Oh, that's never been done before. But I mean, it's still something. But yeah, to just take fan fiction of something that's already shitty and exists, and then just tweak it a little. But I mean, I don't know. 50 Shades of Grey is what it took for like a sexual awakening for a certain amount of people, I guess, which is very sad to me. But I get it. Everybody's different when it comes to their sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
If that's what it takes to unlock it, whatever. Even the whole Mr. Grey thing isn't original. Remember that 2002 movie Secretary where the boss is James Spader and he spanks her? His name is Mr. Grey. The guy, the rich, handsome, aloof guy who's into like S&M stuff, his name is Mr. Grey. And then I've read like random passages. Yeah, he was. So yeah. Dracula, the only idea, and it's not even stated outright, it's just sort of hinted, is that like sunlight doesn't hurt him or anything. He just doesn't really like have like his powers in the sunlight. It's more or less what it is. Here's Dracula. There's probably no way I'm gonna find the spot, so it doesn't matter. There's a copy of Dracula. But yeah, the thing that made sunlight deadly was actually the ripoff of Dracula, Nosferatu. Because that's how that movie ends. It ends with him getting killed by sunlight. Before that, I don't think any vampire fiction had sunlight outright killing vampires. It was just like, yeah, they were weaker and maybe didn't have their powers. It's kind of funny, too, because, like, in general, like, most people haven't seen Nosferatu, and a lot of people haven't even heard of Nosferatu.
Yeah.
But that one part, the sunlight killing them, that for some reason made its way into like pop culture. And it's funny because if you look at like not stereotypical, but like typical vampire fiction, or even stuff just like referencing, it's like 99% Dracula, and then that one thing.
Yeah.
It'd be like, I come to suck your blood and all that stuff. It'll be all that goofy stuff, but very much Bela Lugosi Dracula. But then they'll have the sunlight thing. Because I mean, that's all that Nosferatu was at the time. Stoker was dead, but his wife was not, and she would not give them the rights. So they were like, okay, we'll just write a knockoff Dracula script, and that's so this guy now his name is Count Orloff, and they made changes here and there, and they changed various characters' names. But I mean, they did do one kind of cool thing. It's like the whole idea that didn't really go that far that didn't. The sunlight thing went far, but the idea of like contrasting it instead of Dracula being sexual and Dracula being handsome and charming and magnetic. They're like, nah, let's make him all creepy and rat-like. I like that too. So I think so. As weird as I can get about that, I think both work. Yeah, I did actually watch the first 50 Shades just to see how bad it was, and it's incredible.
I've been trying to find Crash to watch. I think it's only out on DVD. I don't think it's got a Blu-ray or anything, and it's like way out of print. So
yeah, I think we'll probably do that on this show. It's the only Cronenberg movie I really don't like, and it's just because it makes me uncomfortable, which is kind of unfair because it's not like he doesn't do. I mean, I love him; he does great movies.
It's definitely the intention, so he achieved what he was going for. So is that James Spader in that?
Yeah,
James Spader.
Because James Spader is always a sexual deviant. It's the rule. 9.5 weeks is pretty tame. I mean, what happens in that? Like, he uses an ice cube on her. Ooh.
Oh, 4K.
By Arrow.
Wonder if it's the UK Arrow.
I was gonna say you probably need an international player for that.
Well, 4K is not supposed to be region locked. So.
Oh, really? I never heard that before.
I've heard a few people say they've run into the problem, but it's not supposed to be region locked. Which is one good thing about the format.
Yeah, we'll probably do Crash. Because actually, I was thinking about Crash the other day because I wasn't thinking about the movie. I was thinking about it was a novel. Because I wasn't thinking about the novel itself. I was just thinking about the writer. I need to look up his name, but I can't remember. Blah blah blah. Oh, J.G. Ballard. J.G. Ballard was an English writer. Died about a decade ago. Anyway, he wrote some really good stuff. He wrote a really great book. But he's also he did write a book that it's funny because he mostly wrote different stuff, but he wrote the novel Empire of the Sun, which of course we did the movie of on here, which is a movie we both really like. But it's kind of weird because Empire of the Sun is not really indicative of his body of work because that's a historical fiction type movie. The one that's really cool is High Rise, which I think they did make a film about a few years ago, but I have no idea if it's any good. But High Rise is a really good book, which is just basically about a bunch of people living. It's written in the 70s. Just a bunch of people like living in a luxury apartment building where everybody's like happy and everything, but everything just descends into like anarchy. Anyway, I was thinking about that novel because I read it a long time ago. I was thinking I never owned the book. I wouldn't mind getting it again. And then I was like, oh shit, he's the guy that wrote Crash too. Isn't it weird, though, that the guy that wrote Crash also wrote Empire of the Sun? That's kind of mind-blowing.
Wow. That is interesting.
But yeah, actually, I'm going to watch Empire of the Sun again soon because that channel I've got the free preview of has it, so I might as well watch it again because it's been a while. Because that's still one of my favorite movies. I love that movie. I don't know what our current audience, how long they've watched the show, but if you go way back to like our early episodes, that's one of the early episodes we did like 4 years ago. I love that movie. One of the lesser talked about Spielberg movies. It wasn't a flop or anything, but it did not, wasn't the massive success so many of his movies were.
Yeah, it was one of the first ones we did. That may even be on my channel before we created this one.
Yeah, I think possibly. Yeah, we did about 7 or 8 that were on your channel, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Sean, I talk about it. We never did an episode on it, but I've blabbed about it in some of these. And also, there's a Sausage Factory episode that was all about the films of Spielberg. So I blabbed about it on there, too. If you track that down, I don't know. I'm not saying you need to hear me specifically talk about it. I'm just saying that's one I agree. I like Munich quite a bit. Feels kind of relevant now. I know that was with the Palestine stuff.
Yeah.
That's a never-ending story. We're just in the latest chapter of it.
I'm seeing some crazy stuff lately, man. I don't want to get into it, but
yeah, it's depressing. But I guess we can just wrap up on this movie. I know we veered off topic and talked about various things, but that's just because, there's not a lot to discuss in this movie, like themes and stuff. It's all pretty straightforward. But I mean, I can see how this helped Daniel Craig get the role. It still is a little surprising, though, when you think about it, because when you think just, what a big deal James Bond is. So, I mean, they must have really seen something they like, maybe in some auditions or something like that. My mom really hates him and thinks he failed as Bond. I don't. But, because each Bond, I think, has been different. And I realize it's the same character, and he's supposed to portray a certain amount of suaveness, a certain amount of danger, and things like that. My mom's big one is, one, she thinks he's not attractive, and two, she thinks he's, like, more thuggish than suave. I was like, okay. So, I mean, I get it. But I mean, each actor brought their own thing to the character. I don't think there's been a bad Bond. I like some better than others. I don't think anybody's been bad.
Mm-hmm.
Not even the guy that did it once, the forgotten George Lazenby. I don't think his Bond is at all bad. It's too bad he didn't get to do at least one or two other movies just so we could see. His movie is a really interesting movie, too. If you want to talk about the black sheep of the series, it is that movie, which Dalton is not my favorite Bond, but he's in my favorite Bond movie. So I'm complicated. The guy who I picture the most, who's closest to the way I personally, just myself, picture Bond is Brosnan. But my favorite movie is, I'm the only person in the world, my favorite movie is
Moonraker.
The Living Daylights. Moving Daylights. And his second movie, License to Kill, is probably still top 5. So Dalton, even though he only did 2, he did 2 of the absolute best as far as I'm concerned, although most people don't think that. But yeah, when I picture the character and, if I'm reading the book or whatever, Brosnan's the closest, but I like them all. My least favorite Bond is Connery, so I'm super weird in that, because there's a whole section of Bond films. I mean, Bond fans that are like, Connery is Bond, period. Like, no one else. That is how they see it. Again, I don't think he's bad. He's just my least favorite.
All right, real quick, we can answer this question and go ahead and wrap up if you want to. No, not that one. Favorite Spielberg movie?
Oh my God, that's easy. Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. It's my favorite movie ever, period.
Probably say Jaws.
Everything. But I mean, I love Indiana Jones so much. I would have to probably, to make it interesting, just say, not counting Indiana Jones, my favorite Spielberg movie is maybe Close Encounters.
Really?
Yeah, no, I don't think any of them have been bad.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's the thing. Like, that's why I'm excited. That's why I want to get to a new guy. See if he's any good. See if I'll think he's bad, Yeah, and as far as talking about, like, characters again, see, Bond is different than, say, like, other people, in that the whole point is they're played by different people. If somebody said, who's going to, a few years ago, people were talking about, like, Chris Pratt playing Indiana Jones. I'm like, no, only Harrison Ford. Only, shut up. Only Harrison Ford. Fuck you. That'd be me. But Bond, I'm conditioned to seeing him as different people. He'd been played by different people before I was even born,
Right.
So the only thing I think about Bond is, yeah, Bond is a man, and Bond is British in some way. He could be from Wales. He could be from England. He could be from Scotland. He could be from Ireland. Any of those is fine. And if he happened to be black or whatever, I don't care about that either. Because there are black people that live there. And other races too. So I would not freak out if there was a black Bond. But no, I don't think there should be a girl Bond, because that's not Bond. That's a woman. And then people always read that the wrong way. You're saying a woman can't be Bond. Well, yeah, but I'm not saying a woman can't be like a cool kick-ass action spy. No, I'm all for that. But yeah, and yeah, so I wouldn't want, so like, no. And I know in most cases, like, who gives a fuck? Like, Canadians play Americans, Australians play Americans, Americans play British people and such. Like, I don't care about that. I think Bond is one of the few times where, I would prefer, like, it not be like an American or a Canadian or whatever. Even an Australian would be pushing it, because actually one of the people that Craig beat out for Bond, and I don't know if he wanted to do it or not, but was considered for Bond was Hugh Jackman. And isn't Hugh Jackman technically, he's Australian, right?
Yeah.
Pretty sure Hugh Jackman's Australian. I don't think the
believe
world
Australian.
would have burned down if Hugh Jackman was Bond, but I'm glad he wasn't. Yeah, but I'm glad he wasn't. Yeah, see, that's my second favorite Spielberg film, Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I'm too old, Sean.
Because my first
Too
is
old
Last
to play
Crusade.
Bonds.
I don't think so.
I'd agree with that.
But
I
you
like
could only
Bond.
do like three movies top. And he
Yeah.
was another that was considered at the time. I don't think he would have been bad, but yeah. I mean, it's just a bias thing. Like, I've seen Craig in the role. I've accepted him in the role. Maybe if it had been Owen, it'd be the same thing. But right now, it's hard for me to picture Owen in the role. I mean, he's got a good build and everything. He looked like he could do it. But yeah. So No Time to Die comes out in like what, November or some shit?
It's been postponed so many times.
I'm gonna rewatch at least the I think I'd be a great Bond villain. I'm not sure exactly what my angle would be though. I mean, most Bond villains have to have some sort of gimmick or hook, you know.
This thing even has a release
But
date.
yeah,
on it.
it got postponed like a million times.
October 8th.
Part of me wonders if so pretty close to November. Like, do you think No Time to Die is going to have like a definitive ending? Because that seems like what they were doing with Craig's Bonds. They seem like they're not like set in like a floating timeline. They seem like they're all together and that this one will be like the end. I don't know those names. Maybe.
Okay, that's the guy from Get Out. Daniel Kaluuya is from Get Out. And he is
Get
British.
Out's how
right?
many years ago? Like 5? He seems a little young, but maybe he's older than I think he is.
He's
I would always say Bond should be 35 at the youngest, maybe 45 at the oldest. This is how I picture Bond. Bond is not
31.
Bond is not in his 20s. Bond's definitely. See, that seems a bit young for me. I think Bond should be in the ballpark of 40. Bond is not like a young agent. He's a seasoned agent that's been around for a while. Several actors, including Craig himself, have hung on too long now and play like I don't like Bond in his 50s. Like, to me, yeah. You should be cast as Bond when you're like 34, 35, 36, and then make 3 or 4 movies and then get out. But, you know, it's not a perfect world we live in. Because, yeah, to me, Bond is basically like late 30s, mid 40s kind of range.
Oh yeah,
Now
Jack
is
O'Connell.
is that wrong too? And now am I being ageist? Like, you know, I don't know.
Those guys are both about the same age, right around 30. And this guy,
Yeah, that seems too young.
did you see Starred Up from 2013?
No.
It's a prison movie. That's a good film. He's done a lot of good stuff. This guy, Jack O'Connell. I didn't know him.
I remember specifically about Black Bond. People talked about Idris Elba. I think Idris Elba's too old now.
He's too old. Yeah,
he probably could have done it about 10 years ago.
10, 15 years ago, definitely. He's older than he looks. He's probably like at least in his 50s.
Oh, he is, yeah. But I mean, I would have been fine with it. I would not have freaked out or anything. And he is British. Because, yeah, that is my stipulation. And when I say British, again, I'll include all those isles. And they have been from different places. Like
He's from London.
Like Connery's Scottish. I mean, Connery was the first Bond. He's from Scotland.
Money Printer.
No, he wasn't from.
Let me tell you, man, when I found out Idris Elba was not American, he does such a great American accent. Like, it blew my mind. Like not only American accent, but specifically Baltimore.
When he auditioned for The Wire for that role, like he kept the accent up the whole time. He didn't want anybody of them to know because he thought it might freak them out. So they just assumed he was American because even when he was just talking outside of the audition, he kept it up. It was kind of a while. I guess it was once he knew he had the role, he realized he could drop it. And people were like, "You're British." Yeah. He and the guy that played like Dr. House are good examples of British people
Hugh
doing
Laurie?
good. Hugh Laurie of doing good, convincing American accents. I mean, most of them can do it, but they never can quite hold it. Like, if you hear somebody like Daniel Radcliffe, he can do it for a little while, but if it goes on long enough, he'll slip. And I mean, that's how I am with accents too, although I'm not an actor. I mean, I can always do like a few lines in an accent, but if I keep going, I'm going to lose it. It'll turn into something else or something like that. But anyway, yeah, oh yeah, you got something.
Sorry, I think we got a little bit of a delay on one of our ends. I keep cutting you off. No, speaking of British accents, I just watched a show with Kate Winslet in it called Mayor of Eastwood, I think. It's
yeah, I've heard the title. It's pretty popular right now. I have no idea what it's about, but yeah.
Mayor of Easttown, and it takes place in Pittsburgh, and she does a really good Pittsburgh accent. And they said that when she was on set, like, if she wasn't filming, she would revert back, but everyone else was afraid to revert back to their original accent. But that's talent, if you could just jump in and out of an accent like that.
Yeah.
A good show. I really enjoyed it.
She does a good accent in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's like her best performance for me. She's a really good actress. Kate Winslet.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah, I don't know these people. I don't know. Again, it seems like a familiar name, but I don't know.
Oh, Game of Thrones.
The guy that was on Game of Thrones that played Jorah would have been a good Bond back when that show started, like back in 2011. He's too old now too. But whoever played Jorah Mormont, he could have been a good Bond. He's too old now. So I don't know what actor that is.
Rob Stark is the guy that played Rob Stark. I think you got to.
Oh no, not at all. No,
he's quite young too. Well, no, he's older than the other two. He's 34.
Yeah, still pretty young though. But I mean, if we're going to talk about Game of Thrones actors, the guy's name is the fuck is his name? Ian Glenn. In a weird twist, Ian Glenn plays Batman, although you never see him in the suit, in that Titans show. And that's, again, proof that he's way too old, because it's like Bruce Wayne looks like he's like 55.
I feel like Ian Glenn could play Alfred. he's
I think he could have been a good Bond like 15 years ago.
Yeah, at least.
He's too old now. He's old as hell.
59. Or 60.
60, wow, even older than I thought. And that's what I mean. Just like 2 years ago, they had him playing Bruce Wayne, and he looked all the 58 in it. It's like, what are you doing, man? I mean, I can't take that show seriously anyway, but why have him as Bruce Wayne? I like the actor. He's just way too old. But yeah, back in the day, I think he could have possibly been a good Bond. But he's a very good Mormont. I mean, I don't want to get way off topic and we're going to finish up, but I mean, one of the successes of that show, as someone who read and enjoyed the books, is like over 90% of the casting is great. They have maybe one or two characters that miss, but some of them are so good, it's shocking how good they were. Like I'm so out of that world, I can't even remember characters' names anymore. But like Littlefinger, oh my god, he's good. Varys, like perfect. The girl, the woman they got to play the girl knight wannabe, like she looks like she stepped out of the fucking book.
Oh, Brianna of Tarth.
Yeah, Brianna of Tarth. I mean, what's his name is Jon Snow. Like those are all fantastic casting. Like great. That's one of the reasons why the show was popular and worked. Well, at least worked for a little while. Like really good casting.
I think all the casting was great.
Yeah, for the most part. They kept recasting the Mountain. Like 3 different people played the Mountain.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why that was necessary.
But
anyway, just finish up with Layer Cake, which I just consider a pretty, it's straightforward and it's not particularly unique, but it's just a really efficient sort of taut crime thriller. It's a good ride. I was into it from the very start. I feel like the ending is a bit of a letdown, but at the same time, I get that it would have been kind of it wouldn't have been right for it to be like some, big elaborate action sequence. I just felt like maybe the build up, it feels a little bit like a letdown. Not huge. Like, I don't think it's bad or anything. I do think it's a good movie. It's very taut. Taut is the word I would use. It's not a long movie or a short movie. It's just sort of in the middle, and I don't think anything's wasted. I don't think you need to trim anything or cut anything out. But at the same time, sometimes when I find movies confusing, sometimes I'm like, I wish there was more, or there was an extra scene to help bridge. Like, I feel like this is just right. Like, everything fits together well, moves along well. Like, the pacing is fine. I don't think there's any real lulls in the movie. It has a lot of characters, which it is on a first watch difficult to keep track of them all. But it's not impossible. Like, I don't think anybody will watch this and be completely confused. But there were a couple times where I was confused, at least at the start of a scene. And, it had to keep going. I was like, oh, right, he's with them and blah, 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 But I would say you would definitely appreciate it probably on a second watch when you have a better feel for who the characters are.
Mm-hmm.
So I might even watch it again. Might even watch it again the next few days since I've got the opportunity.
Definitely benefits from a rewatch,
Yeah. I like that the ending's kind of open-ended. Like, he might not die. Maybe he does. Maybe he doesn't. Trying to think. Yeah, nobody steals the show, and nobody has a ton of screen time besides Daniel Craig, but everybody more or less, does their job. They do what they're supposed to do. There's a few. It's not a super funny movie, but there are a few moments of humor that kind of caught me off guard. I was like, "Oh, that's kind of surprising." Some of the dialogue and stuff isn't bad. Some of me is just laughing at the way British people talk. Like, again, when the cop calls the guy a soppy cunt, that's pretty funny. But I'm definitely a fan of that director. He's kind of hung up right now doing those Kingsman movies, which I know you like. I don't particularly like them, but they're fine. Like,
oh man, have you seen them both?
Yeah, I've seen them both.
Oh man, I think they're great. It's just stupid fun. I'm not going to hold it up on a
pedestal. And this is what I say about plenty of things that I think are stupid. Like, I 100%, I love so many stupid things. So it's not like I don't like stupid. Just some stupid doesn't work for me. And this is stupid that doesn't quite work for me for whatever reason. The second one's probably a little better than the first one.
I gotta agree with that.
And I mean, there's definitely things I like about it. Like, some of it's kind of funny. Who's that actor, the main guy?
I'm not sure of his name.
He's an interesting guy. He's a talented guy. Can't remember his name, but he's definitely talented. Seen him in different stuff.
I've got it here. Taron.
Yeah, Taron Egerton.
I believe that's right.
Yeah, he's a talented guy. He did a good job playing Elton John in that movie. If you saw that.
Yes, that's who that guy is. Yes,
and he's interesting too, because like he can sing a lot like Elton John, but you can hear how they're different. He sounds like an alternate reality of Elton John. It's really interesting. And he and Elton did a song together for that soundtrack called like "I'm Gonna Love Me Again" or something like that, and it's really good. Where they each take a verse, and it's I really like it. But yeah, he's also, I think I said, he's in a kind of underrated, under the radar sports movie called, I think it's Eddie the Eagle or whatever, or just about that ski jumper. But he's a really talented guy.
Yeah, he is.
He sort of plays like a different kind of secret agent. Not Bond, but somebody that goes against convention, I guess. Is that Colin Firth in there with him?
Yeah.
Like the older guy that recruits him? Yeah, I like pretty much everything Colin Firth does. Always like Colin Firth. But anyway, yeah. So I think this is a good sort of tight movie. It's not genre defying. It's not like a classic like we did with our first movie, like something like The Jackal. Like, I don't think this will be remembered as a classic, but I mean, I don't think it'll be forgotten either, because it is sort of the movie that put Daniel Craig on the map, and it also was the first movie directed by that director Matthew Vaughn, who has gone on to have a pretty impressive career.
Yeah.
And I will keep an eye out for what he does in the future. And I'm also really impressed by, as I said, some of the look of the film, which I guess I can attest to Vaughn and perhaps the cinematographer. And I mean, just in looking up that cinematographer, Ben Davis, I'm really impressed with the stuff he's gone on to do. And now he's doing some really big, important projects, like some of these Marvel movies and some other stuff. So
yeah, it's obvious.
And it's cool that they're going to work again. That he's going to be the cinematographer on the next Kingsman movie. So I think that's pretty cool that they'll work together again. Because it's nice seeing that. Yeah, a lot of really big movies. But he can do subtler movies too. Like, it's not all like he did 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. I didn't love or anything, but it looks really good. Really good looking movie too.
Yeah, that's one I want to go rewatch again.
Yeah. I wonder what My Policeman is. That's the furthest it is. But I mean, yeah. I mean, Eternals, wow. But anyway, so I guess we can wrap up there. So I don't know if we're going to do one more or 2 more. We're going to do at least 1 more British crime film, but it could be 2, depending upon what we, can have access to. I realize that as far as this movie goes and the last one we did, Rise of the Foot Soldier, they're both kind of they're interesting movies, but neither of them lend themselves to like particularly in-depth discussion. I wouldn't mind finding a movie that perhaps we can do a little bit more with, but we'll just have to see what we can find. As I said, I really want to do The Long Good Friday, but I don't know if I'm going to be able to be that lucky.
Yeah, I've kind of
Although
had trouble.
Perhaps I can find it online or something. I've
had trouble tracking some of these down.
Yeah, I thought Get Carter would be easier to find, honestly. But because I like the idea of doing something more old school. I mean, we started with an old school one, but it was a little different because it was not like it wasn't the gangster thing, right? It was sort of an international political thriller type thing, which made it a little different. The Jackal, whereas these other movies are more like British gangsters and stuff. Seeing something like with somebody like Michael Caine would be cool.
Is that Get Carter, the one with Michael Caine?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think you'd really enjoy that because I don't think you've seen it before, right?
No, I've always wanted to see it.
Yeah, I really think you'd like that one.
Yeah. So we're going to figure out what we can find, and depending on how that goes, we'll either do 1 more or 2 more. So at least there's at least 1 more coming in this series. So we are not yet done with the British crime series. But anyway, thanks a lot for everybody that was with us and gave us some lively discussion there, bringing up some other topics that we're happy to talk about.
Absolutely.
Always. It's a lot of fun. And I think that'll do it. So until next time, peace out. And we'll be back at least 1 more time with another British crime film movie. Thanks a lot, guys.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll see you next time.